So I came here when I was 17 without my parents.
Really?
3 weeks after I got here with my friend, he got into a car crash. And yeah, I ended up being by myself.
And there it is. Stephane Roncada has won his third race of the 125E season.
You quickly forget the pain, but it does affect you when you start being scared. Like you just have to get off the bike or something bad's gonna happen. I always looked up to Jeremy. For as good as he was, he stayed so down to earth. He was one of the only guys that would always be nice to me. It's gonna be hard with Jet out there if he doesn't get hurt. I mean, he's amazing.
He's a freak.
Yeah, he is a freak.
Whereas Supercross, you go there, it's nighttime, it's cool, there's food, the stadium, the fireworks, the lights.
The excitement for Supercross, I think, has always been up here, right? Where motocross is kind of down here. I hate social media. To be perfectly honest, I think it's the downfall of humanity, if you ask me.
Athletic Greens is not only an all-in-one formula, it's also the first healthy habit that starts every single day. Whether I'm at home and scooping it out of my big green pouch, or on the road ripping open a travel pack, the first thing I do each and every morning is mix a scoop of AG1 into about 10 ounces of water before I get on with my day. The main benefits for me are digestion, energy, and my skin, nail, and hair health. As far as my digestion goes, the probiotic effects make sure that I'm very consistent. This reason alone is enough to consider AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase exclusively at drinkag1.com/gypsytales.
I met a gypsy.
So how did you get started in the industry? In the MX industry?
So I first was a filmer.
Yeah.
So I worked for, do you remember the J-Star KTM team?
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, so those guys. So I was a filmer in Australia and I started, I think I bought my first camera in 2008.
Yeah.
So I started in 08 and then by the 2010 Motocross of Nations, there were a couple of Aussies coming from Australia to race it. And then I was talking to Verb and I kind of made some connections over here. I always wanted to come here. I'm sure you being from France, you look at America and you're like, this is where I want to be.
This is where I want to be.
Yeah. And so I basically got an offer to come over to film the Australian boys at Motocross of Nations. I did Parla, then I went to Motocross of Nations and so Rockstar Energy of all people booked my flights, Mike Kelso. So I need to give always a shout out to him. So he got his agency to book my flights for Motocross of Nations and Parla. But instead of booking me for 2 weeks, they booked me for 2 months. And so I slept on Ryan Walters' couch.
No
so
shit.
Ryan Walters is the guy that films for Dirt Shark now.
Yeah,
So he was Verb back in the day. He's one of the best moto filmers ever, I think. And so I lived on his couch in Canyon Lake. His dad had just bought this.
In Canyon Lake?
Yeah, dude. His dad had just bought this new house. And it was just me and him. And then Tyler Berriman moved in 3 days later. And so me, him, and Berriman were just running wild in Canyon Lake. And that was the start of everything here.
Yeah.
And so I went to Parla, I went to Motocross of Nations, and then I kind of jumped on the Verb program.
Okay.
Drove across the country, and then I went back to Australia. And I was like, fuck this, I want to go back. I was 20 or 21, whatever I was. And then the JDR KTM team, who I was doing all their filming for in Australia, were going to America. And so I just pitched them. I was like, let's do a documentary called Coming to America.
Nice.
And then so I went and worked with them. I was working with Nate Ramsey. He was the team manager. There was a bunch of people on that team that were awesome. And then it kind of just got me in here. I was here for a few years, and then we started a production company, and we just kept filming. And then I was here till pretty much 2018.
Yeah.
Had a visa issue, went back to Australia, started the podcast. Podcast blew up.
In Australia?
Yeah. And then, podcast blew up. We started doing, in COVID, we started doing these remote where we made it look like we're in the same room.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then I was like, fuck, I'm just going to go back to America. So I was there for 5 years and then came back. So
Nice. That's a pretty cool story.
yeah, it's wild, dude. I mean, that's like 12 years, 14 years, like condensed
Right.
in like a couple minutes. But that's the long and the short of it.
That's pretty cool.
Wild, eh?
Yeah,
So,
very.
was it the same for you coming from France?
A little bit. I mean, I was like I always wanted to come here, right? Obviously, and so I came here when I was 17, without my parents.
Really?
Yeah, like I came with a friend of mine from France, and yeah, just kind of showed up. And I mean, I had a contract with Honda of Troy.
Yep.
That some people in France helped me get, people like Xavier Douard and Eric Perner.
Yeah.
So they hooked me up with Honda of Troy here, and yeah, I came here with my friend. You know, I mean, he was an adult, but I was 17, just here by myself with him.
No way.
Actually, if it wasn't for Michael Pichon,
Yeah.
I would have been a lot harder because his family lived nearby. I lived in Corona in an apartment.
Yeah.
And they lived in a house like 5 minutes away. So I was always with them, you know, the first year or two, and they really helped me a lot. But yeah, it was crazy, man. And 3 weeks after I got here with my friend, he got into a car crash.
No.
I had bought a pickup, an S10 pickup. And he went to right across the street to Albertsons to get some food, got into a car crash. A lady ran the red light, totaled the car.
Wow.
He got hurt a little bit. He had to go back to France because his dad wasn't doing good. And yeah, I ended up being by myself.
No way. Dude, I remember it being... So you were 17 then?
Yeah, 17.
I'd lived out of home a little bit, but I was like useless, dude. Like
Yeah.
I was so hopeless. Like it just all of the adult things, you know. But I remember it being a culture shock for me, being a 20-year-old, 21, whatever I was, in a different country, and like, but I spoke the language. Culturally, it was
Yeah.
like fairly similar, still very different, but like, dude, it wasn't easy for me. And I was lucky I lived with like all Australians. I had like good friends.
Yeah.
I had it as easy as you could possibly have it. And I still found it hard.
Yeah, it's not easy. I mean, I spoke English, but not very well. Just from, you know, doing the GPs in Europe, talking with some riders, you know, that only spoke English. So I really had to learn when I got here, right? Like, you have to learn, right? There is no other way.
No, yeah, there's no way.
So it was a little tough at first, but I mean, I was so happy-go-lucky, you know, when I was younger. Like, my dream was to come to the States. I didn't care if I came alone, with friends, with no friends. I just wanted to be here, no matter what. So, yeah, all of that hardship kind of flew over me. And like I said, you know, I had a lot of help from Michael Pichon and his family. But yeah, I remember it wasn't easy. It was tough. Like one day, I remember calling my mom crying because I was by myself and just didn't feel good. You know, I just felt alone. So my mom actually flew and came and spent like a month with me, I think, or something like that. That really helped a lot. But yeah, it's not easy. But I think when you have a dream and you really want something, everything is kind of, I wouldn't say easy, but it makes it easier.
Yeah,
you know?
can like walk through.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that.
So, but yeah, that was interesting. Like I have a lot of fun stories from when I was here at first. Like one that I remember the most is, especially in Europe, you know, like people are more, or back then people are more like sexually open, and they're not so, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like frigid or
Yeah,
like,
right?
Yeah.
So when I was 17, right? And
Pretty horny. 17-year-old.
pretty on here, but so I went with Eric Keogh, which was the team manager at the time for Honda of Troy, and we went riding in the hills by his house, like north of LA or something. And where you park, it's in the neighborhood, right? Houses and stuff. So there is a neighborhood of houses, and then it's a cul-de-sac, and then there is a fence and hills behind, right? And we parked there to go ride in the hills, right? And I didn't think about it twice. I just, you know, peed on the fence.
Yeah,
Like, you know, houses are behind me.
Yeah.
There is no one in front of me, just hills. I'm just peeing, right? We come back 2 hours later, there's cops there. Because some woman in the house saw me peeing on the fence, called the cops.
No way.
Yeah, so we got back and the cops are there, and so Eric Keo had to like explain to them where he's from France, it's different over there. He's young, blah blah blah. Dude, I always remember that because I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that's nothing. Like,
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
nothing.
you can do that in Australia too.
Yeah.
Like, literally no one would care in Australia.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you've got some Karen up in the like. This was before Karens were Karens.
Before Karen existed, yeah.
But she was still there.
She was there, yeah, and she saw me, and so that was interesting. I'll never forget that one.
Man, there is some crazy cultural differences from Europe.
Oh yeah.
Like, language aside, I mean, I remember hooking up with a German chick once when I was like pretty young. It was probably like right before I went to America, and I was just like, what the fuck is going on, dude? This chick is insane. And then you go to Europe and you're like, wait, this is just what people are like there.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Dude, I remember too at Motocross of Nations, Roxanne's dad was just like, he wasn't naked, but he was just in like the tiny little, like Speedo
type of thing.
just in and out of the sauna, just like the towel over, and like everyone's like got their robes on and shit. And like when Ken used to come over to our, like, well, anytime he got changed, going to the track or just naked, just didn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
So different. Like, and people here would just think it's him. It's like, no, that's like a cultural thing.
It's a cultural
like,
thing, yeah.
People just don't care as much,
Yeah, totally.
Oh, that's so funny. So how did you even get the dream at 17 to race here?
Oh man, like I was always watching videos of Jean-Michel Bale.
Yep.
When I was young, and it was my dream because he came here and he was kind of my hero back then. So that's all I wanted to do was to come here and race because also the best racers in the world. Are here, or at least back then it was definitely true, right? Nowadays, I think with like some of the caliber in the World Championship, some of those guys are really fucking fast.
Really good.
Like actually, just saw one you did with Kay, the Wolf.
Yeah.
And I've been following the GPs this year, and yeah, I mean, holy shit, they can ride.
He's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like we talked about it in the podcast, but like they crash so much too.
Yeah.
Like their guys in America just don't crash the way that they crash.
No, like
those guys just go.
The get-offs.
Yeah.
Just fucking.
Yeah. But like it's not like that here.
No.
Guys are so polished. They try not to make like big mistakes like that.
But they use the clutch a lot.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Did you ever notice that when you got here?
Yeah. It used to piss me off too, because not piss me off, but like drive me crazy, because you get guys around you and you can hear them. They're just
yeah,
and they don't really go that much faster, right? And it's like, just chill, dude. And it used to drive me crazy when I had guys behind me like that, and I would want to get away from them just to get away from the noise. It's like Jesus.
Oh, that's
so
so
I thought
funny.
it was funny when he was talking about that because I can relate.
Yeah. So you see Jean-Michel Bale, and so you're a young kid racing in France at the time.
Yeah.
What was motocross like in France in those years?
What was it like? I mean, it was pretty good, I guess. Like France is one of the other there's only a few other countries where motocross I feel is very good, other than the States.
Yeah.
France is one of them.
Why is that?
I'm not sure, to be honest. Not sure, but I mean, we had a good Supercross championship. We had a good national championship, juniors championship, stuff like that. Good tracks. England was close by too, so I went to England a lot to race. Because at the time back then in France, I think it's when I was still on 80, I think 80cc, and they started doing those stupid starts with the elastic.
They
let go, right? And I was like, fuck that, I don't want to race like that. So, and I also was too young to do a lot of the races in France, so we ended up going to England a lot to race. So I did a lot of racing in England and Belgium and stuff. Italy, I used to go to Italy all the time to practice.
Yeah.
There was that track in Italy called, what was it? Anstey or Anstey? I don't remember the exact name, but it was my favorite track in the world. We would always go there.
Really?
Yeah, it was badass. That's also where I broke my shoulder. Not that track, but in Italy.
Huh.
Like this one's pretty gnarly.
Oh, wow.
It was I was 12, I think.
Dude,
12.
that's a gnarly surgery.
Compound fracture. So my humerus broke right before the head.
Yeah.
The whole thing came out, right? So about this much of the bone was out. And I remember like being in shock and looking at it and thinking that's my collarbone. And it wasn't, right? But like, and my dad runs over and I'm sitting on the tire on the side of the track and he tries to put it back in, right? And I'm like, oh, it fucking hurts like hell. But he tried to put it back in for infection, but he couldn't put it back in, right? So that was gnarly. So I ended up in a hospital in Italy, fucking dirty as hell, where doctors smoked and shit.
No
Not
way,
kidding.
bro.
Yeah. And my parents tried to get me like helicoptered back to France, but we couldn't do it. I was bleeding too much and shit.
Yeah.
So I ended up getting a surgery in Italy.
Oh.
And I remember when they lifted me up, I was like on the bed for a while, right? For like 2 or 3 hours. And they lifted me up and there was like pool of blood under my back from all the bleeding and stuff.
Wow.
And so they did the surgery and they actually did a really good job with the surgery. I mean, I lost a lot of motion in my arm. Like I can't bend it back at all, but it's been very strong. But yeah, dude, I had 3 rods, like one here, that came up about this long.
No way.
For like 2 or 3 months, I think. And the ride back to France sucked because it was in our truck. It was like a Mercedes truck.
Yeah.
Where you have the bikes in the back and like where you live in, basically.
Yep.
And so, but yeah, like I was in my bed the whole time, and every single bump on the road and stuff was like nightmare. Fuck. I mean, I don't remember the pain really because you kind of forget the pain, especially when you're young.
Yeah.
But I remember that it sucked.
Yeah.
It really sucked.
Man, I did a little like an interview thing for like a series that Husky's doing next. You know that Grit and Grind series that they do? Do you ever see that on YouTube?
Oh yeah, I've seen some of it.
It's so underrated. Like it's shot so beautifully, but I guess just the way the guys aren't at the top all the time, so maybe people aren't looking for it. But it's shot brilliantly.
Yeah.
But they were talking about like fear and pain. And it did get me thinking, like, it is weird how much fear and pain you guys at the top level can just like where does it go? What does it do? Like, how?
I don't know. You just don't think about it really. When you start thinking about it, it's time to retire. Like you have to get off the bike. When you start being scared, like you just have to get off the bike or something bad's going to happen. But I think it's mostly because like most pros start when they are really young, right? Like I started at 4, being on the bike, all the way up until when I retired. So like riding a dirt bike is like almost like second nature. Like you don't think about shifting, about braking, about any of that stuff. It just comes naturally, right?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I don't know. It just goes away. And especially when you're in a race, right? As soon as the gate drops, it's like all that goes away. It's just, you're racing and you just want to beat the guy in front of you. And that's all there is to it.
But you wonder why doesn't your bone sticking out of your arm and bleeding and all of the trauma that you go through, why doesn't that then stop us?
Well, I wouldn't say it stops you, but it does affect you.
Yeah.
I remember when I had this happen, that was the worst injury I had. For the first few days, I was like, I'm not getting back on the bike.
Yeah.
Right. And then as soon as I started feeling better, I was like, when can I get back on the bike? You quickly forget the pain. It goes away really quickly. But it does affect you. I mean, we see like riders like Roxanne, for example, right? Like, amazing rider. And I think if he didn't get injured like he did, he would have been...
Yeah, I agree.
It would have just blown everyone away, I think. And so injuries do slow you down. And sometimes they kind of like plateau you, right? Like, because certain types of injuries, are just in a way that your brain is just like, even though you forget the pain and stuff, your brain kind of remembers that it really sucked, right?
Like it stays in your
Yeah,
subconscious.
it kind of does, right? I mean, if you try really hard to forget it, and I think that that's going to affect you for the rest of your career. I don't think many riders can completely overcome that kind of stuff. I mean, there are some that can, but I think it depends on the injury, the type of injury, how it happened as well, and the recovery process for it, right? It's tough sometimes.
Some stuff is so traumatic.
Yeah.
Like what Ken went through. Like if you do a knee, okay, I did my knee. Like foot came out in a rut and I popped my knee. Like fuck it.
Yeah.
You can get through that. But then something like what Ken did, you could die.
Yeah.
And you've really come close. Like an Austin Faulkner's crash.
Yeah.
Like you look at that and you're just like, holy fuck, bro.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like it's the level of trauma that you really do go through is the thing that
I think so, yeah.
That can stop you. Because Kenny, physically I'd say he's lost some range of motion and that, but like physically he can ride. Like he's won races again since, but like the level that he was at, he looked unbelievable. Like
he was, yeah.
At that point when he crashed was maybe the best anyone's ever looked on a bike.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. And that crash was fucking scary as hell. He went flying.
Like worst case scenario.
Oh
crash.
my God. Like it's the kind of crash where, you see it happen and you get goosebumps, right? It's like, ugh.
It never gets easier to watch.
No. Like, some people can watch nearly crashes and not react. I don't know how. Every time I see someone crash, I'm like, maybe because, I've been in those situations so you can relate more. I'm not sure, but it's like, you get goosebumps and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to hurt. That's going to suck.
Yeah. So you were racing your whole life. Base started at 4.
Yeah.
And then you were, doing the French sort of series. Do you remember like when you got good? Do you remember that you were good enough to be an American? You know what I mean? Like when do you remember I could be like Jean-Michel Bell?
Pretty early on, because as soon as I started riding, I was already pretty good at it. And then on ADCCs and stuff, back then I was battling with Vuillemin and Tortelli and those guys. And
so that was your generation?
Yeah, that was my generation.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I wondered like where exactly you slotted in when it comes to that.
Yeah, we all grew up together, right?
That's awesome. Do you still talk to DV?
Oh, yeah.
Sick, yeah.
Yeah, no, DV, we laugh about it now, but that incident that happened, the slapping incident.
Yes,
remember
that's
that?
Right. What year was that?
I think it was 2001.
No way.
Or 2002.
I remember now that you say it, but I forgot about that.
Yeah, we laugh about it now. And I remember too, so he took me out in that turn, right? And I was pretty pissed off. And at the end of the race, I went to confront him. And I was a little bit too and I was going too fast. And when I got close to him, it went to the concrete. And the concrete had that dust on it. I hit the brakes and it didn't slow down. And I slid right into him and I hit the back of his bike, right? And that there wasn't my intention to hit him. And I was like, oh, fuck. And, but yeah, like it's funny when you're racing, like it's so intense, right? That emotions are high.
Yeah.
And when you retire, it's like, that's fucking funny. Like, it's like,
yeah.
Like, what the fuck were we thinking kind of thing, right? So, yeah, no, like Divi and I are cool and we've laughed about it.
That's so funny. We're definitely making a clip of you guys slapping each other.
Remember, he was trying to punch me and I was putting my head down because the helmet, right? And he was trying to like punch me like through and he slapped my helmet a few times and
That's so good. Did you have much of a relationship like while you were racing, or it was like very competitive even then? Because I think now you'll see like, actually I don't even know whether the French boys sort of stick together. Like you got Vial, you got Ferrandis, but it's like I know for me, I like to gravitate towards like my people,
Yeah.
like the Lawrence brothers. It's like I get around those boys, I get around Emma and Dazzy, and I'm just like, like, give me,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like it feels like home in a way.
No, it was definitely like that too when we were all racing together. I feel like we were like closer
Yeah.
in a way, right? Even if we are, racing each other, we're still all from France. We were all racing together when we were young. But it's weird, right? It's this weird feeling of like I've known these guys all my life, right? And I consider them good friends, but you're racing against them,
Yeah.
right? They are your enemies on the track, right? So sometimes it's a hard balance to tackle, right? Because it's weird. Because we've known each other since we were 5 years old.
Well, I think that's one of the unique things about motocross and supercross in general
Yeah.
that other sports don't have. Like if you think about the NFL,
Yeah.
there's just millions and millions of kids playing playing football all over America every single Sunday.
Yeah.
And it's like then you get better and you go on a high school team, and it's like this guy over here is operating in completely his own thing and he's getting good, and then you go to college and then there's just like all of these college teams. So it's like this super wide funnel to get to the top.
Yeah.
Whereas in motocross, it's just
very
like
narrow.
it's a very small funnel, and like Eli Tomac and Justin Barsha have been racing each other for 27
Right?
years. That's so much like history and trauma and like just bullshit and parents taking each other out. Like there's just so much that's intertwined. And the same with you and Vuillemin, you and Tortelli.
Yeah.
It's like you just spend so much time together.
Especially when we were doing the GPs, because we would often meet up with David's parents and drive together, right? Because, we live in two different places in France, but during the GPs, you drive to other countries pretty far, so we would always very often meet up and do the drive together, right? So lots of time spent like that as well. I remember one day, it was a funny story. We were going to Ostrich? Not Australia, but Austria, I think.
Austria.
Yeah. And we stopped at the camping site, right, midway to driving to the track. And there was still like snow on the mountains and stuff, and the big, huge lake, and the water was like freezing fucking cold, right? And David and I meet these two chicks. And like a bunch of dumbasses, to impress them, we decided to go jump in the water. And it was freezing. Like we jumped in and almost fucking died. And got back out, and we didn't even get a kiss or anything. So, lots of time spent like that people never get to see really because they only see us race, right?
Yeah, and the helmets are on, and
Yeah.
it's like so serious and competitive.
Yeah,
there is, and I think the GPs have like a different culture too, because it's
very
like,
different.
It's like there's so many different backgrounds, and there's in some ways it's like very small because you can go from France to Belgium, and it's like it's all so close, but then you also do these like very far, or what, like it's definitely a very weird series like that.
Hungary and stuff. I remember I think it was Hungary. It was gnarly because the track was close to the city, and next to the track there was a zoo for like animal owners that would leave their exotic animals there when they went somewhere, right? So let's say you own like a bear or a tiger, and you could leave it there to go somewhere, right? It wasn't like a zoo that people can visit. It was a zoo to keep people's animals, right?
Like dog sitters for bears and
kinda,
tigers. Yeah.
And there was this enclosure with a bear in it. I don't remember if it was a black bear or it was a big bear. And there's the enclosure, and then in between there is a bunch of space, and then the fence. And you're not supposed to be going between, right? Because they can grab you. And I remember this kid got in between, this little girl, I think. And the bear grabbed her and pulled her all the way through the fence. The only thing that stopped her was her head didn't go through, right?
Oh.
And her whole arm was like completely like destroyed, right? It was gnarly. And it took them, they didn't have like anything to cut it. They only had a wood saw. And it took, I think, the emergency services like half an hour to get there or something like that. And I'll always remember that because like, I don't know if that kid lived or not.
Oh, that's so gnarly.
Yeah. But, and you realize, when you travel to countries like that, that's when you kind of realize how good you have it in some other places of the world.
Yeah.
But this was crazy, man.
And that was in Hungary.
I think it was Hungary or it was one of the Eastern countries. I'm fuzzy with memory and that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was one of the Eastern countries, and yeah, like that's the kind of stuff that kind of marks you forever.
Yeah, bro, that's heavy.
Yeah.
What other like wild countries did you guys race back in the GP era?
Like Indonesia and stuff.
Yeah.
Indonesia was fun because, well, it was fun. The race wasn't fun because it's fucking 100 degrees and 100% humidity.
Yeah.
Right? Super hot and humid. But the weird thing about Indonesia that I always remember is we stopped in Singapore on the way there.
Yeah.
Singapore was one of the cleanest cities I've ever seen. You could eat on the fucking sidewalk.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how clean it is, right? It's crazy. And then we go from Singapore to where we were going in Indonesia. And it's insane because you have like poverty everywhere. It's so poor, right? People living in like
dirt huts.
mud houses,
Yeah,
dirt huts and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And right on the other side of the street, there's a 4-star fucking hotel where we stayed. Big old hotel, 4-star, everything you could possibly dream of. And it's like, how does that happen?
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
it's crazy.
It's the weirdest fucking thing.
And it's still like that.
Yeah.
Like being Australian, we spend like a lot of time in Bali.
Yeah.
And my wife and I, we lived there on and off for like, we probably spent both of us like 12 months there over like a period of a couple of years. And man, it's that same thing. It's still like that. You're staying in this 5-star, beautiful luxury villa. Like we had like this pretty sick like house that we lived in while we were there.
Yeah.
And then, you go, and it was during COVID, so it was dead. So no
Yeah.
tourism, nothing. And you're just seeing local people and just actual poverty.
Yep.
But everything around it is just this luxury, beautiful, like it's crazy, man.
Yeah,
And
like
people
how
talk
do you
about
reconcile that? Like,
corruption.
yeah.
Like it's literally corruption. It's fucking gnarly. Was some of the other Eastern countries pretty wild though? Because you guys used to go back to Russia back in the day, did you? Or
I never went to Russia when I was racing it, but
they'd do like Estonia.
yeah, I think so. Like Estonia, like a lot of Eastern countries we used to go to. Like Hungary was one of them. Most beautiful woman too in Hungary.
Yeah. Oh, Eastern women are beautiful, man.
Oh my God. We were there with a rental-car, and one of my friends that was with us literally fell in love on the spot with a prostitute. Like, we are driving through town and there's prostitutes, right? And he literally fell in love with one on the spot. It was so fucking funny, dude. Like, we made so much fun of him for that. But yeah, just beautiful woman there. I remember like on race day, and it was a different track, not the one I was talking about earlier about the zoo stuff. But on race day, I remember like all the girls showed up and they were all wearing bikinis and shit because it's hot and they're all hot.
Yeah.
Like it was pretty crazy. Like you see the difference in countries of like, between like people and the culture and everything. I think that's the best thing that could have ever happened to me is travel the world racing, because you get to experience all that stuff.
Yeah, it's so underrated. I think especially, I mean, the statistics around Americans that own passports is crazy. Like barely any Americans like ever leave the country.
I have one now.
Oh, are you American?
Yeah.
You American citizen? That's awesome. How long did that take?
It didn't take long. It just took me a long time to actually apply for it because I was using my green card the whole time. But I became an American citizen last year.
Did you vote?
No, I didn't this year because I'm an idiot and I waited too long to register.
Oh, well, it would have been the first year you could have though, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, I just think travel is, I mean, it's the thing that shaped my life probably the most out of everything. And I look at and I've said it on here a bunch of times, but like, there's a perspective that you get of the world and the problems in your own country when you go to other countries. And when people, people will complain and say, oh, this is fucked up here. It's like, like, yeah and no.
Yeah and no,
Like, yes, if you're just looking at this, but on the grand scheme of things, like, this is
not that fucked up.
This is crazy good. Like, and that's why a lot of people are trying to come here,
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But, yeah, the travel and to be able to do that racing as well. And I think it gives you, like, a level of maturity, like Kyle Wolf come in here, like, he's a young dude. And he's a very wise, well-spoken, look at Prado, super young guy that is just like so mature and grown. And I think it's like to do with those experiences.
Oh, big time, yeah. I mean, between that and also having, when you race at that level, you have to have a certain amount of discipline and stuff, right? So I think all of that combined with the traveling really kind of like shapes you to be, to grow up really quick, basically. And having all those experiences, really help with that.
Yeah,
for sure.
So how long? What was how old were you when you first raced GPs?
15.
That's wild, dude.
I think 15. Yeah, 15 was my first year in GP.
Think about that.
Yeah. I was 15. So I was 15, and then the next year, I don't know if I was 15 or 16. I was very young. Basically, I started racing GPs as soon as I could. And I remember my last year in GP, I was actually doing really good. I could have been in the top 3. But I had to miss races on purpose because I wanted to come to the States the next year. But back then, they still had the rule that you could only have so many GP points for coming here. Like if you had too many points in GPs, you couldn't race in the States.
Really?
Yeah, so basically, the best guys in Europe, fuck you, don't come here.
Huh.
So...
And who enforced that rule? Like, whose rule was that?
I believe it was the AMA back then.
Really?
And they got rid of it, I think, the next year. Yeah, it was a weird fucking rule.
No way.
I hated it.
So if you did good enough in the GPs, you weren't allowed here?
Yeah, basically, yeah. If you had too many points in GPs, you couldn't race.
And so you were just like, fuck that, I want to go to America.
Yeah.
Was it Supercross was the thing that made you want to come here? Or just...
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Supercross, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because I've always liked Supercross better. So... And Supercross is definitely the more like dominant discipline here. I mean, Motocross is also pretty high up there, but Supercross is where it's at, right? Between like all the sponsors, the crowd, the races, it's just the excitement for Supercross. I think has always been up here, right? Where Motocross is kind of like down here.
Yeah, and I just think it's like a barrier to entry thing, even to where it's like. I've said this, but like my wife's a good example of she wants to go to Supercross.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to go to motocross.
No, it's fucking hot and, you
it's
can't
far
really
away.
sit anywhere.
You gotta park fucking ages. It's dirty. It's like, it's just, there's no shade.
Yeah.
We went to Parla and we were just like walking around in the fucking sun all day.
Oh, Parla's the worst.
And then she watched the second moto in the press tent. She's like, I'm just going to watch it on TV. Whereas Supercross, you go there, it's nighttime, it's cool, there's food, the stadium, the fireworks, the lights, it's the track.
It's a show.
You can see all of the track. Yeah. Like, I get it. And there's just no, but I mean, motocross is fucking amazing.
Oh, it is amazing.
Some of the stuff that the guys are doing, racing motocross is crazy, but it's just, as a package, it's very hard to compete.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's also more fun to shoot motocross because when I retired, I love photography. So I did a bunch of photography for a few years where I flew to the races. I enjoyed shooting Supercross, but motocross is where it's at for shooting because there's so many great fucking shots to have in motocross. Yeah. And that was a lot of fun shooting motocross.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So how long did you do GPs? 2 years?
So 2 years, 2 years. Because my world goal was to come here as soon as possible. Like, I didn't care about being world champion. I didn't care about any of that.
Huh.
Yeah, like, I wanted to come here. That was my dream, and that's what I wanted to do, and that was it.
So when did you start racing Supercross?
So Supercross, I started racing in France in the French Supercross Championship, I think when I was 14. 14 or 15, like maybe a year before the GPs. Yeah, like maybe a year after I went to 125. And I remember also I was racing on 80, right? And I was winning a lot on 80. And then I switched to the 125 class and started racing the national championship. And I remember my mechanic telling me, you're going to lose, right? Like, it was easy until now, but now you're racing against the real guys, and you're probably going to lose, and you need to be okay with that. And I always remember that because he tried to kind of ground me, right? Don't expect to fucking win everything now that you're with the big boys, right? And I remember my first race, I threw up in my helmet on the start gate.
Really?
Yeah, it was bad. And hey, I didn't win.
And what was it like to not win after winning everything as a kid?
I think it would have been harder if I didn't have people around me that kind of, told me not to expect to just destroy everyone, keep me grounded more. So, but it sucked. It's like, well, fuck, I got 7th or 8th, and it's like, okay, I got some work to do, So, yeah, I started racing Supercross and the French Supercross Championship. So, Tortelli, Vuillemin, and myself, were racing each other in Supercross as well. And I feel like that we had and we still have a very good format, I think, in France for Supercross. Because like even the tracks and stuff, I remember, they're not like American tracks, they're not as gnarly, but they were still like hard enough to where it prepared us, I think, pretty well for Supercross in the US.
Yeah, so it wasn't like a crazy jump to go from one or the other.
It wasn't, no. And so as soon as I could come here, I came here. And so I remember when I got the deal with Honda of Troy, before they signed me, they wanted to see me ride, right? So they flew me to the States, and so we go to the Honda test track, and Eric Key was there. And I remember, like, we're talking about the track, and he's like, that triple there, no one can do it. And of course he was fucking with me, like, because he wanted to see what I was going to do, right? If I was going to be like, oh, no one can do it, so I'm not going to do it. And I was like, I was thinking, that's stupid, that looks easy. So I go ride, and on the second lap, I pull the triple and stuff. And I was like, that triple is easy. And then I realized later that, some guys came and rode, and they were doing the triple, no problem. And so I was like playing little mind games with me to see if I, how much I wanted it, basically.
That's so sick.
Yeah. So, and then the next day we went riding at, I don't remember the name of the track, but it was north of LA. And it's one of those man-made track, like local track. It's pretty flat with jumps, kind of like Paris in a way, but smaller. And I remember Kyo was riding. He was riding his 250, and I was riding my 125. And man, I could barely keep up with him. And it was pissing me off that I could barely keep up with the team manager. But Kyo was fast still back then. Yeah, he ripped. Yeah. But I remember being pissed off. Like, I was like, motherfucker.
No way.
And and I was trying really hard to keep up with him and trying to pass him and stuff. That was my first experience in the state. Is that day at the Honda test track, which, by the way, on that day, so there is a big hill at the test track on the left, and so you can go up and down, but it's pretty gnarly and there's rocks and shit. And I remember towards the end of the day, I decided to go and play a ride, and on the way back down, I catch a rock and wreck. The bike slides all the way to the bottom. The whole left side of the bike, the radiator is like all gone and shit. Oh, I felt so bad.
How was the bike compared to what you were racing in France?
It was great. That 1997 Honda was really good.
Oh yeah, it was still the steel frame. Yeah.
98 sucked.
Yeah, the 98 was shit.
Oh my god, it was such a bad bike, and I was very vocal about it.
Really?
Oh yeah, on the team, and I was like. Because even who was on the team back then with us? Craig was on the team.
Mike Craig?
Yeah, Mike Craig.
Wow.
Mike Brown, I think, was on the team too.
No shit.
And they were faster than me outdoors. They were ripping. And I remember telling Kyo, even they can fucking keep up because the bike sucks so much. And so the next year we switched to Yamaha. And I remember when test riding the Yamaha, bone stock bike at Glen Helen, and I was like, holy shit, this is so much better. Bone stock. It was amazing, the difference.
Yeah, they were a piece of shit, those 98
They were
bikes.
so bad.
I can't believe that Honda got it that wrong.
Yeah, it was bad.
And they stayed wrong for 8. Like, they just, you know, I guess now, though, like, they were the ones that initiated the whole aluminum frame push. So I guess, like, in the end, they kind of won. But, I mean, like, they lost McGrath over that. Yeah. Really. Like, crazy that they were putting something into production and into the race teams that was so much worse.
Yeah, he was horrible that year.
That would never happen these days, I don't think.
No. McGrath, I remember. So in 98, I think, or 99, I moved to Menifee, California. That's where I bought 5 acre, and so I could have my own track in the back.
Oh, really? Sick.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And so that house was really, really close to McGrath's parents' house, where he had his track.
Yeah.
Right? And and I was good friends with his parents and his sister and stuff. So he would let me go ride at his track when I wanted to go ride there. But I remember, like, I'm such a geek. And so, you know, back then I was already into video games, right?
Oh, really?
And but mostly playing them. I wasn't, like, developing them or anything yet. But I remember I was looking for a new TV, right? And the McGrath had that big old TV that they wanted to sell, like a big screen. So I'm like, hey, can I come over and plug in my console and try it? So I went over there with my Super Nintendo at the time, I think, plugged it in to try it and see if it was good enough and stuff. They were really, really cool.
No way.
Yeah, it was so funny. And ended up, it didn't have some of the right plugs in the back, you know, like back then it was like S-Video and stuff like that.
Yep.
It didn't have S-Video, so it was still RGB, and I was like, it's not going to work.
No way.
But it was so funny. I remember going over there with my console and plug it in. And go ahead and do what you want.
Oh, this little French nerd coming over to try my TV. That's so good. What was it like riding with him?
It was great. I always looked up to Jeremy. Always. Because for as good as he was, he stayed so down to earth. And like he was one of the only guys that would always like be nice to me or say hello or be cordial or polite or like always, right? Which I thought was always really, really cool. Like I really looked up to him a lot. Still do. I mean.
Yeah. It's funny, man. Everyone says the same thing.
Yeah.
Everyone. It's universal that MC was cool as fuck.
Yep. For sure. Good. It's good old times, you know. I think it's different nowadays. Like there's such machine now. Like you have to be in such fucking good shape to even have a chance at winning, right? Like back then we still had fun. It feels like. Then Carmichael came in and kind of like wrecked all of it for us. But back then they still like McGrath, Emig, all those guys, you know, they still had fun riding in the hills and just, you know, throwing huge jumps and just having fun. It was very different.
Yeah, it has changed. And I think even just the vibe towards competitors and the way that they compete with each other and no one talks to each other and no one, like, it's changed. Yeah. And it's not, I don't think it's getting better either.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. But I think I almost understand it, you know, because when you push yourself so hard, like those guys have to work so hard at being in the kind of shape they're in, right? It's like, it's almost like a job. Like I never saw riding as a job, right? And but I think when you're at that level nowadays, it's almost like a job. It's like because you have to do so much to be competitive.
It's a gnarly job.
Yeah, and those guys are early. I mean, you know, I'm not trying to take anything away from them. Like the stuff they do nowadays and how hard they ride is incredible. And when you see, you know, on the gate at Supercross, you know, there are 10 champions on the gate. It's like, holy shit, man. Like, yeah, you have to win against all these guys. Yeah,
and I mean, I know that it's not that fun.
Yeah.
For the guys. And I think as well, like, the social media era and, like, the internet era, like, that we're in now has really changed the game too. And I think I just don't know how prepared some of these guys are mentally to deal with that.
Yeah,
You know?
it's got to be hard.
Yeah, and like I can relate because we post a lot of content.
Yeah.
And we get hundreds and hundreds of comments on everything that we do, and like it is a lot to deal with. But yeah, it's like it's almost that has to be a prerequisite these days for you want to be a pro rider? Cool. Everyone's going to talk shit.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to be okay with it. You can't let this affect the way you feel about the sport, the way you feel. Like, and I get it. It sucks and it's uncomfortable and it's
thick skin. You have to have a thick skin.
Yeah. And that has to be like, you have to know that now.
Yeah.
Like you have to know going into it exactly what it is, if that makes sense. And
it does, yeah.
I don't know that. I think we're in like a weird gray area where like that hasn't caught up yet. Maybe when you work so hard and you try so hard, you're very sensitive to criticism and
probably more so, yeah.
But it's just like, I just don't think you can exist in this day and age as a professional athlete without just really letting go of that stuff. Like I see it affecting some of the guys, and I'm just like, I wish they would not let it get to them.
Or just stay off social media at all. Like, it's funny because, like, when I was racing, I was always already into computers, and like I was building my own website, and I would do like news sometimes too, and I would write race reports on my races, and I was really like open and upfront with my fans. Like I tried to communicate with my fans like all the time. Through building websites, forums, and stuff, right? So I was way ahead of the curve on that side of things, right, back then. And then social media kind of came in the picture, and like I hate social media, to be perfectly honest. Like I think it's the downfall of humanity, if you ask me.
Yeah.
So there's like everyone has a fucking opinion. Everyone. There's so much crazy shit on social media, right? And and it's funny because I did like a 180 on that kind of stuff. Like, I'm not on social media. Like I mean, I have an Instagram and Facebook and stuff, but I never use them.
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, it's just crazy, like how much shit they have to deal with nowadays.
Yeah. No, it is like, but I think you got to just like know that it exists and then have a plan to navigate it. Like I think people are just surprised that there's fucking haters. It's just like, no,
there's going to be haters no matter what.
You can't be surprised about this. Like you have to be prepared. You
can do everything right and there's going to be haters.
Yeah. I'm going to piss real quick again. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll be back. The difference between like the social media thing and then the like what you were doing, right? So you got your website, little forum, and you like communicate. It's much more of like a real, genuine kind of connection. And people have to like find you to connect with you.
Yeah.
The thing with social media is that you've got these platforms. Like it's designed in a way that promotes like rage baiting and clickbaiting and like these negative like it's the platform's fault, and we're all getting sucked into it, and we all like like the saying, don't hate the player, hate the game kind of thing.
Yeah,
we're all hating the players, and none of us are hating the game. And it's like if we all took a step back and we're just like, like the problem is we've got 130,000 followers or 150, 160, whatever the fuck it is on Instagram.
Yeah.
But we get 11 million views a month. So we're not getting 160,000 people aren't watching the content. It's like millions and millions of people are watching the content that aren't fucking followers, that aren't friends of ours.
Yeah.
And so these platforms just push this shit out to everyone that is remotely interested. And it just creates this like weird toxic environment where like people look and they're like, fuck this guy. Yeah. There's no like genuine connect. There's nothing like real. They haven't had to seek this person out. Like, I'm a Roncada fan. I'm going to go and I'm going to visit his website. I want to see what he's got going on.
It's very different. Yeah.
And so the whole ecosystem, and everyone's hating the player and no one's hating the game. Everyone needs to know, and I tell this to riders behind the scene. I tell this to managers behind the scene. I'm just like, guys, just get with the fucking program. Like, don't take any of this shit personally because it's not personal. You don't know these people. They don't fucking know you. They think they know you, but they don't.
Yeah.
Let's just understand what this game is and just play the fucking game for what it is. Don't take this shit personal. But I get it. They work hard. They're invested. It's hard to see the forest from the tree sometimes, you know?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And there's so many trolls out there. It's so easy to troll nowadays.
Yeah, dude, I'm a fucking troll sometimes.
I think we all are sometimes,
Yeah.
right? It's too easy to troll.
Yeah. What got you into computers?
Got me into computers, video games.
How old are you?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes.
40?
I'm 21 forever.
20, yeah. 21 plus 20. Yeah.
I think I'm 44.
Okay. Yeah, I would have been like 40, 40-ish, yeah.
Yeah, 44, I think. I was born in 1979.
Okay, so you got the early video game. So what was like the first video game you played?
Oh, I think it was Excite Bike.
Oh, beautiful. So you were just the kid.
I used to get blisters
No
playing
way.
Excite Bike. Oh, yeah.
So good.
I used to making tracks all the time and just have so many hours in that game.
Really?
So many hours, yeah.
Fuck, that's awesome.
Yeah, Excite Bike. And there were some other like weird moto games back then on like the Sega Genesis and stuff. I don't remember the name. But yeah, Excite Bike is the one that I kind of grew up with. Yeah. And so I've always been into video games ever since I was a little kid. And I've always been into like RPG type games, like adventure games. Like I'm a huge like Final Fantasy fan.
Yeah.
Like all those kind of games, you know. Like I'm a huge nerd for those kind of games.
Did you ever play like Doom and shit?
Yeah, I play some Doom and stuff, but I'm not very good at first-person shooters and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially nowadays, if you go online and you play online, it's like, dude, you have to make a career out of it if you want to be any good. So I'm like, fuck that.
Well, haven't they changed it to where like now they're matching you with people that are like your skill level? But I guess it's so easy to game that. Yeah. So yeah, Final Fantasy, any other like full like.
I'm drawing a blank. But lots of adventure games like Zelda. You know, Zelda. The Chrono Trigger was a great game. I played a lot of these types of games when I was growing up, and Moto game, of course.
What other games are you into now?
Nowadays, so like right now, I'm playing through Baldur's Gate 3.
Okay.
On PC, I'm playing through Dying Light 2 on PS5, and I just finished the new Tales game, Tales of Arise. I'm always playing so many games at the same time, dude.
Yeah.
It's like, and games nowadays are long too. Like, you know, it's an investment.
Yeah.
But I like taking my time because I like, you know.
Are you a completionist?
I'm not a completionist because I don't like to have trophies and stuff.
Yeah.
But I like taking my sweet ass time before I finish a game. Like, try to do all the side quests. Like, because after I finish a game, usually I'm like,
done.
I'm done.
Yeah.
So I just take my time, and sometimes I play a game for like a month, and then I jump to another game, and come back to the previous game. You know, so it's kind of like fresh again.
Yeah.
Like, one of my favorite games of all time is The Witcher 3.
Okay. Yeah.
So I play the shit out of The Witcher 3. I'm playing through it on PC again with all the mods and stuff installed.
Yeah, right.
It's fucking awesome.
Are you a Scrolls guy at all?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have it. I started playing it. I tried the previous From Software games.
Yeah.
Too hard for me.
So my wife, I'm not a gamer.
Yeah.
Right? So we never had PlayStations as a kid. We used to go to people's houses that had PlayStations and we'd play them there, but like we just never really did it. My wife, exact opposite. She's like hardcore gamer, bro. She's full From Software and she is like completionist of that shit. So she's like,
oh damn,
she goes fucking hard. So I really I knew racing games and I'd play like racing games and Tony Hawk and shit at like friends. So I'm like actually know this world a little bit now through her. She's playing through Red Dead Redemption.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Right
Red
now.
Dead 2, yeah.
Yeah. That's a fucking cool game, bro.
Yeah, and what they did with that game is pretty mind blowing. The amount of technology that's in the game.
In what respect?
just from the way it looks, the way they were able
physics
to
of
put
it.
that off on Gen 8 platform, which is PS4 and Xbox One.
Yeah.
That's amazing in its own right. And just like everything they did, like there's so much detail in that game. Take the horses' balls, for example, right? They grow and shrink based on the weather. Like they went just completely over and beyond on everything. And technologically, it's kind of a marvel on what they were able to achieve and how good it runs on consoles. But they had to pull other studios from the same group to help them finish it.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, a game like Red Dead is like you're talking, almost 1,000 people probably worked on it total.
Huh.
It's a huge project. It's incredible.
It's incredible where video games are now in general. Like just making hundreds of billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous numbers. But like you said, I mean, if you think about the investment like a movie studio will make into a movie, I mean, when movies are getting in the billions of like single digit billions, it's like, whoa, you have like a From Software or, like the Rockstar game, like they're making in the hundreds of billions of dollars. It's like, it just seems to me like video games is just going to keep sucking up so much of that entertainment space because of how profitable those big releases are. It's just, I really wasn't in this world until I got married, and like, I just was like, holy fuck, this is insane, dude.
It's also very high risk.
Yeah.
Like games like Red Dead or even From Software and stuff, those are big budget games. You're talking $100 million maybe for Red Dead, if not more. If it doesn't sell, they're fucked.
Yeah.
Like they bang the house on it, right? And it's huge teams. Like people don't realize how many people it takes to make a game like Red Dead and how much money it takes. It's insane. It's insane. So they're definitely banking a lot, spending a lot. So there's lots of AAA games that are basically banking the house on the game doing well.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't, I mean, for example, the PlayStation's latest problem that they had with
Cyberpunk?
No, not Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk, they were able to turn it around and do a really good job. But PlayStation recently released Concord.
Oh, I haven't heard about it.
Yeah, see, that's a problem.
Yeah,
So Concord is a 5v5 shooter, right? Have you ever heard of Overwatch?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of like an Overwatch type game, right? They started development on Concord 8 years ago when Overwatch came out, right? It went through a lot of changes apparently to development, but they've been developing the fucking game for 8 years. Sony spent, I think, $150 million on it. $100 million. It was a crazy amount of money, right? Like they kind of banged, they just betted everything on it, right?
Yeah, all in.
And thank God it's Sony. They can, they are gonna be okay, right?
Yeah, they'll be fine.
They'll be fine.
Yeah.
It took 2 weeks after the game's release for the game to be removed from stores because it didn't have, no one wanted to play it because there was nothing really new about it. There was a lot of political stuff going on with it too, but the characters weren't very appealing or anything, and it's just a huge flop. Like on day of release, they had I think only 600 players online, and then
wow,
over a week it went down to like 70 players or something. Fuck. 2 weeks later, they had to remove it from stores and take that loss.
That is crazy, dude.
It's like the biggest video game bundle in history. Not bundle, blunder in history.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Wow.
And it sucks for those people that worked on it for 8 years. Because, there's lots of talented people in the industry that do a really good job.
Was the game good?
The game itself is not bad, yeah. I mean, it's a solid game. It's pretty bug-free.
But people just didn't need it.
They didn't care for it because character design was bad.
Yeah.
They designed all the characters to be very generic.
Yeah.
No curves anywhere. just not interesting characters. The gameplay had nothing new really to didn't bring anything new to the table. So there was no excitement for it.
Yeah. And it's funny, like, just watching the way that my wife, like, because she'll explain, certain things. So she's like, her favorite game's Elden Ring. So she's like super deep in the whole, the world.
Lore.
Oh, and that exactly, like, there's all the lore that comes with it. And it's like, you've got this game and this game and this game. And then you've got Elden Ring. And then there's a DLC that comes out. And it's like, and dude, when she's playing it, like, what a fucking beautiful soundscape, beautiful visuals.
The art style is amazing.
It's so engaging and like incredible what they've been able to pull off in the imagination. And it's like, it's to make it get like, that's the level that these games are at. And it's just,
and it's a big game too. It's not a small game.
No, it's mind blowing, dude.
I gotta continue playing through it. I started playing through it a while back, and I think I played the first 5 hours 4 times with 4 different classes to find which one I liked the most. Yeah. And then I found one and I kept going. But I'm not a huge fan of hard games. And but this one is like, it's not too hard to where I'm not having fun. But it's hard enough to where I get frustrated. So I've been kind of like going back and forth to it. I just gotta get better, I guess. Yeah. Because it's a hard game, but it's beautiful, and like, the design of the bosses and everything, and the animation and everything that goes on around it is, they did a spectacular job. And it's also impressive how popular it was, because usually, when you make really hard games, they're pretty niche, right? But Elden Ring kind of proved that they're not that niche if they're really good. Yeah. Because it sold incredibly well.
Wonder what that would have made.
Yeah, a lot of money.
Crazy. Did you always think that you'd get into video games when you retired from racing?
No, I mean, when I retired, yes, yeah, because
you wanted to get into it.
I wanted to, and it was I had a few not heated discussions, but a few discussions with my team manager back then at the time at Kawasaki, Factory Kawasaki, because like I would already work on games back then, right? Like, so I would work kind of like with Rainbow back then, THQ, the old THQ. Yep. Kind of on the side, I would make tracks for them whenever I wasn't training, right? So they would basically, I would basically make tracks, make content when I had time, right? And I remember Bruce, the team manager, wasn't very happy about it back then, because and obviously I understand it, right? Like, you pay a rider a lot of money, you want them to focus 100% on racing, right? Yeah. But like I told him a few times, you're not gonna pay my bills if I get hurt. Like, I want to do something after I retire from racing. And also, I don't think that I've always been the type of racer that needed to kind of be detached a little bit, in order to do good, if that makes sense. Yeah. Like, I don't think I would have been a better racer if I was more focused on racing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does for sure.
Yeah, it's because I've always been like, when I'm having fun and I'm happy, I do good, right? And at one point, it started becoming a job to me. Like, when I started riding for factory teams, that's when kind of like went down a little bit, because it started becoming too much of a job. So yeah, I had a few discussions with Bruce. I'm not gonna say his last name because I could never say it right. But it was interesting because it's like, well, yeah, like, I want to do something after I retire from racing, and if I get hurt tomorrow and I can't race anymore, like, Kawasaki's not gonna pay my bills. Like, so.
Well, and also I think that there's a thing, like, so many of the top level racers now love gaming. Yeah. Because even golf, right? Maybe one of the most passive sports that you could do. Yeah. Like, Alden doesn't let his guys play golf because you're using too much energy. So I think that gaming is one of the very few things that guys can do while they're racing. Yeah. That is, like, safe. They're actually resting. I mean, it's probably like an argument. I guess it can go the wrong way when you're staying up till 3 a.m. playing Fortnite. Like you
There's
have to have
extremes to everything.
Yeah,
right?
you have to have like some discipline around it. But I mean, problem solving, like hand-eye coordination. Like, I mean, like I said, I can see crazy shit with my wife. Like, she's fucking really good at games, dude. Like, I'll play I'll get in a low-level boss fight and I'll just be like, let me have a crack. Dead. Like, just can't even do a thing. And then, like, when you see what you have to do, like, okay, this attack, they're doing this attack at this sequence of, like, they've got a sequence of attacks. You got to, like, memorize the sequence of attacks. You got to figure out what do you need to slide in? Do you need to run around? Like, a million variables. Yeah. And then you need to have the execution and the hand-eye coordination to, like, execute the move
at the right time.
There's like a lot that goes into, like, being a high-level gamer,
Especially
so it's like,
nowadays, yeah.
So I mean, it's not the negatives. There's not the negatives associated with it that I think there was back in the day. And as an athlete, as a motocross dude, like, you spend so much time on the couch nowadays.
Yeah,
you have to. The recovery that they go through is just ridiculous.
Yeah,
so it's kind of one of the few things that you can do that is like that gives you a good. I mean, it's probably better than just like passively watching Netflix all day.
For sure, yeah. For sure. I mean, it takes your mind off things, but still
engages it
and stuff.
Yeah.
And, I always had a good argument too against, like when people, especially back in the days, that where I was coming down on gaming, I've actually learned how to spell and write English a lot through playing adventure games and RPG games that were all in English, right? Even though I didn't understand English back then, I would read it on the screen, right? And all these years of reading English, I think made it a lot easier for me to... I can write English 10 times better than I can write French. It's easier than French, but still, like, it's easy for me to write English and not spell check or anything like that. And I like to think it's because all of those years of playing games with English text on the screen this whole time kind of like helped my brain make it easier to write English.
Yeah.
Right? I remember I was playing one of the Final Fantasy games when I was small. When I was little, it was Final Fantasy 6. It was 6 in Japan, but 3 in the US. But I was playing the Japanese version that was all in Japanese, right? And I actually came up with like a huge chart where I had to copy the Japanese symbols and stuff because I didn't understand them. And so I would try them in the game, see what they do. Okay, that's fire 1, that's fire 2, that's Fira or Firaga. And so I would write the Japanese symbols and next to it say, okay, that's Fira, Firaga, ice. And I had a huge chart with all of those Japanese words that I didn't understand that I'd written down with what they meant next to it. So, I mean, yeah, video games can be instructive and make your brain work in different ways.
Yeah. So maybe we're jumping ahead. Maybe we should go back to the racing a little bit because you end up, obviously, spoiler alert, like you now are a video game developer.
Yeah.
But before that, I mean, pretty crazy career. Like, obviously, the thing that I remember the most is the 2004 East-West Shootout, you and James. I think
that was a fun race.
That's probably, like, for people that would remember your career, like, that was the craziest shit of all time. That was like someone knocking out Mike Tyson. Almost. Yeah.
I had a pretty good career. Like, I didn't achieve everything I wanted to achieve because I really wanted the 250 championship. I mean, back then, 250 two-stroke. But I like to think I had a good career, and I had fun through my career for the most part. It was good. And so to kind of go back to kind of the beginning when I got here. So my first year here, I raced the East Coast Championship, I think. And
what year was that? 97?
97, yeah.
Yeah.
So my first race was the LA Coliseum.
No way.
Yeah. And so that was my first race on the West Coast. Didn't count for points because I was in East Coast. My second race, so I got 7th, I think, that day. I wasn't very happy. But the next race was Phoenix. And I remember battling Wyndham the world race. Back when he was, the upcoming guy. And that was a great memory for me. I got 2nd place that day. And I remember also not being too aggressive with him because I wasn't racing for points. He was, and I didn't want to take anyone down. So I remember not being too aggressive, and I finished, I think, like a few seconds behind him, like 2 or 3. That was a great memory for me. And then, went to racing the East Coast. I almost won the championship that year. I think I won 3 races. And I lost to Tim Ferry, which didn't win a race by 2 points.
No
that
way.
Year, yeah. That was a good first year. And so back then, you could race West or East. And I think it was Brandon. What was his last name? Brandon something.
Brandon Jessamine?
Maybe, I'm not sure.
What bike was he on?
I don't remember. It was so long ago. But it was one of the West Coast guys racing the East Coast, right? And it was Daytona. And he took us all out at the start of the main event.
I know the one you're talking about. I feel like that was that not Brandon Jessamine?
Maybe.
Was he on a Suzuki?
Maybe,
or
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I remember that race, yeah.
Break way too late because like Carmichael was done, I was done.
Yeah.
And Ricky came back and finished a little better than I did at Daytona that year. But I've always been pissed off about it because I lost the championship by 2 points, which I may not have lost if it wasn't for getting taken out by a West Coast rider.
Yeah.
There's always ifs and may and stuff, but yeah, that was interesting.
Damn, so you missed out on like 2 championships, like very close.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and well, the motocross one against Pastrana, that was my fault completely. I can talk about it after. The Supercross one, I felt like I got dealt a bad card. But then you could say, Carmichael also got taken down that day, and he finished better than me. So if I came back stronger, I would have won the championship.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a good first year. One thing I remember about that first year, it's a story I like to tell a lot. So that was when I first got here, right? And I was practicing and stuff. I was at Paris, and it was before the Supercross season started.
I think I know this story. Keep going.
So I'm riding, and there's this guy that's trying to keep up with me. And he's like being aggressive and shit, cutting the track, waiting for me. And I finally had enough, so I take him out in a turn. Fucking cuts the track, waits for me, launches the bike at me as I go by. My mechanic back then was Sean Persinger, big guy, comes running, getting ready to fight him. His mechanic comes getting ready to fight, which was twice as big as my mechanic. Everyone was like, it was a big, huge mess. Remember who that was?
I believe that was Brian Deegan.
Yep, Brian Deegan. Oh, man. Fucking Deegan.
He told me that story.
Yeah.
I actually told him, I was like, oh, yeah, I got Roncada coming on the podcast. And he's like, ask him about a day at
No
Paris.
way.
Yeah, he's like, I wonder if he'd tell the story.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's so good. So he was just a terror back then even.
Oh, he was a terror, yeah, back then, yeah. And I didn't take any shit from anyone, too. And I didn't even know who he was, right? So I was, like, pissed off. And, that was interesting. And, we were never really good friends after that.
That's so funny. Did you ever speak to him after that?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke, hi, how are you doing, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And now his son is racing and stuff, which is cool to see. So I wasn't a big fan of him at first because he was running his mouth a lot.
Yeah.
But frankly, he's pretty fucking amazing.
Haiden?
Yeah. At first I felt like he was running his mouth a lot and not really backing it up as much. But yeah, like this year, man, I mean, yeah, run your mouth all you fucking want. Good job, kid.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, it's been cool to watch.
Yeah. You might not like him or anything, but you can respect what he's doing.
Mm.
And I've been more and more and more impressed by his development.
Yeah.
And how good he's riding.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's very hard to deny.
Yeah, no, you can't deny.
You can get to a point where, and I mean, it's working. Like, did you see any of the stuff today?
A little bit, yeah. I saw some of it. I didn't see the whole story, but
it's under someone's skin.
Yep.
And it's just like,
and when you can back it up,
yeah,
that is all there is to it. The kid works hard, and he rides like bat out of hell.
And I mean, like, it's like, I don't know how to say it, but it's like, what sport are we in where you can't talk shit? Like, what, like, you know what I mean? What sport doesn't talk shit?
Yeah.
And it's like none of the, I don't know, like, I don't think any of the stuff that gets said is like this crazy.
No.
Oh, like, I mean, he's talking shit, but it's like obvious that he finds it funny and it obviously like riles people. You know what I mean? Like, in what sport are we playing where like what he's doing is more than what anyone else in any other sport is doing?
Yeah.
Bro, in hockey, they take their fucking gloves off and beat the piss out of each other, and it's fine. Like, you know, like I think, I don't know, like I'm a bit taken back by like how everyone thinks it's as bad as, you know, I just don't see where, dude, you guys were going fucking ham back in the day.
Yeah, like, to be perfectly honest, like this past, I don't know, like 5, 6, 10 years maybe, I've been so like annoyed with how everyone's of fucking eggshells when they ride. Oh, I can't touch him, I can't block pass, I can't do that, can't do this. It's like, Jesus Christ. Like, I remember Mike LaRocco, like, he was an aggressive rider. Redbird 2001, I think. First turn, first lap. I opened the corner, I opened the entry to the corner, I opened the gate for him pretty much to come in. Block passes the shit out of me. Hit me so hard, my head was hurting for 2 laps after.
Really?
Yeah, like I literally had a headache. I mean, the guy's like a log, right? But I opened the door. I knew it was him behind me. It's my own fucking fault. And it's like, it's a block pass. Like, it's motocross. Like, I mean, obviously there's a difference between T-boning someone and doing dirty shit and riding aggressively, right? And I've been really annoyed whenever someone rides aggressive and, you know, everyone's like, you block past him or hit him or blah, blah, blah. It's like, fuck. Like, stop whining.
And
Like,
there's stuff that's dangerous.
yeah.
Right?
Like crossing over in the air.
Everyone should be
Don't
pissed.
do that.
Everyone should be pissed at that.
Yeah.
But it's like there's hard racing and it's but even, I mean, when we're talking about the Deegan stuff, like, I don't even really think that he's hit it. Like, I mean, him and Vial come together. Like,
Yeah, but it's nothing.
but like, he's not actually even touching people really on the track unless I'm forgetting something or
I don't
missing.
think so. He's just being aggressive, which is fine.
But and just talking shit.
Yeah.
But like, that's a huge part of sport, like, in general.
Yeah.
That is a massive part of sport. And you look at any other sport, you got the NFL, the UFC, obviously, like, it's a huge part of the UFC. You got like hockey, just everything. Everyone's firing these shots to try and get an advantage
And someone's skins,
on track. And so it's just like, what? I personally don't think, like Kai de Wolf.
Yeah.
He just said straight up, I'm the best 250 rider in the world. Deegan didn't show up.
Yeah. Well, he's right, until he shows up and beats him.
What's wrong with that?
And nothing.
You know? So I don't know. The whole thing, I'm a little bit like, I understand that people that might not like it, but it's just like, it just doesn't seem like it's crossing lines.
Yeah, no, I agree.
In that way, you know?
It's actually something that really affected me a lot when I was racing. Because when I got to the 250 class and started racing for Factory Kawasaki and started racing against McGrath and those guys, I've always been aggressive, right? Like, not dirty, but aggressive. And like, I remember like the commentators on TV and people in general, like, used to give me so much shit. Like, just because I got close to McGrath, didn't even hit him, right? But like,
Yeah.
And it was all about like, how can Roncada do that? Like, who the fuck is this kid? Who does he think he is? It's like, and for 2 years, I think, or more than that, it was like that about me.
Yeah.
And that really affects you. Like, it's like, fuck. Like,
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Like, are we racing?
And it was really frustrating because, especially since like, the only time I took someone out that I felt bad about it is, I think when I took Jeff Matiasevich out, when he came back to racing 125, I don't remember which year it was. But yeah, like he went wide and went in and I cut in, and I thought he knew I was there and he was gonna like kind of like, bring the bike back up and kind of like, concede. And he didn't. I don't think he knew I was there, and I hit him pretty hard and I almost crashed and hurt his knee. And to this day, I feel bad about it. And that's the only time that I hit someone and hurt someone. But every other time, it's like either a block pass or come close, blocking their way or something like that. And I used to get so much shit from people. It's like, I'm here to race. And I'm not taking people out. I'm just being aggressive. And that really affected me for years.
Yeah, and I think maybe back then too, like you don't exactly have much of a voice really.
Mm-mm.
Like people can just say shit and you don't exactly have a platform to speak your side of the story in the moment,
Yep, especially since I've always been also very like I don't mince my word and I don't kiss anyone's ass.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't like that.
Yeah.
And that it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way in the industry.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think as well, like it is a very small, cliquey industry.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, like that whole thing that got broke today. It's like it gets broken by somebody that is not in the clique.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like everyone else knew about it and no one said anything.
Yeah.
It's like very in the circle and everyone's like, oh, geez, I didn't know about that. And it's like, so there's a thing that it's very insulated and it's very internal and it is a club that you've got to be. It's not like other sports.
No, it's not.
Like other sports, if that whole situation went down, people are reporting that. Yeah. But we're in this weird spot where like, I'm friends with them and I'm like, I'm not going to say that because then they're going to be pissed. And then, and like if you're on the outer of that, like if you're a guy, like in your situation, you probably felt very isolated and on the outside and, you're from France, people are, the French guys are all like this and this, even to this day, dude. Remember the Ferrandis thing at A2 with Christian Craig? It was just like the fans instantly turned on that guy and he's fucking amazing. Yeah. So it's like, it's such a kind of cliquey environment that this sport is in, and it's not, don't mean it disrespectfully, like I understand, I'm literally a part of the problem, but it's like it's a very cliquey insider kind of industry, and it can affect people in different ways.
I think it wasn't, I don't remember the exact year, maybe it was 2002. I was still racing for Factory Kawi, and like Carmichael and I got into something, and I don't remember what it was, but I was like, if he wants to ride like that, I'm gonna take him out. I don't have a problem taking him out. I was talking shit. The fucking AMA, you literally try to like prevent me from racing the next Supercross because I was talking shit about that golden boy. Like I remember, like I was in an AMA trailer and I was yelling literally at I don't remember his name back then, but one of the top AMA guys. And I was fucking yelling and like, fuck you. Like, this is fucking bullshit. You guys are a bunch of fucking assholes. And I went storming out of the trailer. And there was a bunch of privateer riders that were all outside. I all heard everything.
No way.
And they let me race. Yeah, I was pissed. I was so fucking pissed off. Huh. They literally wanted to like prevent me from racing because I said I wanted to take Carmichael out for something that happened between us.
What bike was Carmichael on then?
Oh, yeah.
Was that when he was on a Honda?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Was it the year... Because we were teammates at Kawi for a year.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was the year after when you went to Honda, I think?
Yeah. So it must have been, what, 03 or 02? Did he go
I think it was 02.
Yeah, he went...
I was
2001, and then he went in 02, yeah. How were you guys as teammates?
We were fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we were fine. And it's funny because since then I've actually worked with Ricky and his people on some video game stuff.
Oh, so, yeah. I mean, Ricky's the fucking man. It's like all of his team is as well.
Yeah.
It's always, that's the thing. That's the nut. Sorry to rant.
No, that's fine.
That's the other thing that pisses me off in like all the shit is like at some point you're all going to be friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Deegan and Pastrana, friends.
Yeah.
You know, you and Ricky, friends. James and Chad, cool.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to be fucking cool in the end. Like, let's not blow all of this shit out of the water in the moment when like in fucking 15 years, you're all going to laugh at it, you know?
Yeah,
let's all just do good business.
Yeah. I think it's hard to see that when you're a racer because you work so hard.
Yeah.
And you're so invested in it.
Yeah, I get that.
But it would be better to see it. Because I think if, like, I mean, maybe not for, for the fans because everyone loves a good rivalry, I guess. It's like so much, like, time and effort is wasted on being mad.
Yeah.
And pissed off at another rider.
Yeah.
And you could throw your career away, right? Try to take him out because, he did something to you the race before and you end up hurting yourself. Or worse, hurting them, right? Hurting another rider. But I think it's really hard to kind of like, I really think you have to have the right people around you.
Yeah.
That kind of like keep you grounded and kind of give you the like good advice.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you can still have a rivalry but know what it really is.
Yeah.
Because you're right, the fans love a good rivalry. But when like I think there's a way of I don't know how it's like there's a way where you know the role that you're playing.
Yeah.
And it's really you and it's you're actually in it. But it's like the same hate the player, hate the game kind of thing. Yeah. It's like, okay, I know I have to be on social media. I know this is using that as an example. It's like, I know what's going to come of this. I just got to understand the role and take my feelings out of it. Mm-hmm. Like, I have to do that with the podcast.
Yeah.
It's not comfortable for me to fucking read all these shitty comments about me every time I go to a press conference. There's fucking a bunch that are good. There's a bunch that are bad.
Yeah.
All of it, you just know what it is. It is what it is. And it's like there's a way to play the game and to fucking ask the questions and to like, there's a way to just like do your job and know that that's a part of your job. And it doesn't have to poison the way you really feel.
Yeah.
Like what people say about me and all the shit, like I'm fine with it. Like I know the game I'm playing and I know the deal, and it doesn't poison me. It doesn't make me want to not go. It doesn't make me I don't feel real negativity from it, from myself, but it's like, I know it's there. And you get what I'm saying? So it's like, I think there's a way to be a racer and have a rivalry, lean into the rivalry, really like go in on it, but don't take it so personal that it poisons the way you view the sport and it poisons the way that you act, which then, you know what I mean? I think there's a way to divorce yourself from it to where it can actually be healthy, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense. I don't know if you remember, but Pastrana and I had a good friendship rivalry. It was like the most fun I ever had racing was against Travis.
Really?
Yeah, because we were good friends off the track. And on the track, like we are aggressive with each other. Like we knew that, aggressiveness is part of it, block passes and stuff, that's all cool. And then we would laugh about it after off the track. Like I had so much fun racing Travis because he didn't care when I was aggressive with him. He understood that it's part of racing, as long as it wasn't like, a T-bone or dirty move, right? Where a lot of other riders, you're aggressive with them and it's a big fucking story all of a sudden. So racing with Travis was fucking awesome. And I remember we would exchange stickers. Like I gave him my RomanMX.com sticker that he put on his chest protector. And he kept running in for the rest of the series because I actually brought him good luck. That's when I got hurt.
No way.
Yeah, but after I gave him that sticker, I think the following week I got hurt. I was practicing with Eric Keogh at Glen Helen.
Yeah, right.
And so he was riding his 250 and I was running my 125. And the fucker was going fast. Like I was talking about earlier, when I first came to the States, I was, riding against him and he was fast. Well, we were at Glen Helen practicing and he's in front of me and I can't fucking pass him. Like he's going fast. And I'm leading the national championship, the 125. And I'm like, I can't fucking pass this guy. This is fucking bullshit. I was pissed off at myself, right? And so I tried a little too hard and threw it away in the downhill left turn.
Mate, the front goes quick.
Yep. And I was getting frustrated, right? I threw it away and I did my meniscus. And so I had to race a few races where I had to bring my doctor to give me lidocaine shots in the knee.
Just
so I could race. And then even towards the end of the season, when my knee was almost back to normal, I was still not back up to my speed. And that year, Travis and I were the only two that we were kind of like
above the rest.
Above the
way.
rest.
Yeah.
So Travis won everything after that, right?
Yeah.
And I ended up losing the championship by 2 points, right? And it was like the race after I gave him that sticker to put on his chest protector is when that happened. So he never took it off again. But yeah, we had a really good, like very friendly rivalry, and that was really fun.
Yeah, and that's like a professional, like you know the deal.
Yeah.
And you played the game the right way.
Yeah, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
Because I know that, when I was racing against Travis, I could be myself and race hard. And he understood that I was racing hard, and vice versa, right? And that was a great year. That was in 2000 when I won the Supercross, and the national that year was fun because of Travis.
I'm gonna piss again. We'll pick up right. We'll pick up right there. Sorry, bro. We need to bring you a quick word from our sponsor, Motosport.com. I got a YZ450F out the back there that I got some upgrades to do. You know exactly where I'm going. I'm gonna need some help with customer service, so I'm gonna chat with a gearhead. Box showed up. It has a 2007 KTM master cylinder, a Yamaha caliper, also 2007, and a Turner braided brake lines. I feel like this is a very good upgrade for $600. Need the old hanger, so we're gonna put a bit of grease on that and get it back on, bolt her up. Caliper has been done. Now this can just get bolted on. Now, shout out to Kiefer, who I think stole this off Doug Duvar. That was easy. No, that was easy. All it needs now is to be bled and ridden. This is a pretty epic upgrade. You can get OEM parts to build this little Frankenstein brake kit, or basically anything else for any brand by going to motosport.com. Yeah, I think those years with Travis were just so rad too when he was in the outdoors. Like, he just brought such a crazy energy, and I think like the sport hadn't changed yet. Yeah. With four strokes. Yeah. As well, and I don't know, like the nationals just
still the screaming 125.
It was just pure.
I missed that.
Yeah, it was just like that was like really cool era in the sport.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. And that was a really fun year. And then we all went up to the 250 after that.
That was the last year, and then you guys. Yeah. So 03, was that your first year on a 250?
No, 2001 was my first year on a 250, because 2000 is when I won the championship, and then 2001 is when I went up to 250 for Factory Kawasaki, and Travis went up with Factory Suzuki.
That's right.
And I remember because like Travis was scary to be around on the 250, and I remember like I didn't feel comfortable having him in front of me or behind me. Like, because, you know, in front of you, something's going to happen and you're going to run into him. Behind you, you don't know what he's doing. So it was interesting. But yeah, it was fun. And so I did 2 years with Factory Kawi. I had like up and downs. Got sick a lot. I had to have my tonsils removed because I was getting sick all the time and shit. Yeah. And I remember like I wanted to stay at Kawasaki. Like I loved the team and stuff.
And they were a pretty good bike.
Yeah, no, it was great. But the second year bike, they had some frame problems. I was always complaining in the whoops.
Yeah, okay.
And I remember my mechanic telling me that like he finally fessed up to it a few years later that they were having problems with the frame. But obviously you're not gonna tell that to your rider.
Yeah, you can't say that shit mid-season.
Yeah. So we were struggling in the whoops. But they were great bike. Like I was happy at the team and stuff. And they offered me a pretty good contract for the next 2 years. But I wasn't very happy with, like, if I won the championship, I wanted to get more money, basically, if I won. And they didn't want to budge on that. So I started talking to Suzuki. But I was only talking to Suzuki to get them to maybe budge on it a little bit and go up a little bit, right? And I waited a bit too long because they got mad and they took the deal off the table out of nowhere.
No way.
Yeah.
Did you have an agent or you did all your own
I
deals?
did have an agent, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not a very good one apparently.
Yeah.
But although he did warn me that they were getting anxious. So they took the deal off the table out of the blue. So that was 2002. So that was for 2003 and I didn't have a ride. And Suzuki had just hired Tortelli, right?
Yeah.
So they didn't really have any more money for me. So I was like, well, fuck. And I remember, talking to Roger about it, and he found some money for me, and they put me on the team, and it was me and Sebastian on the same team.
Yeah.
And I remember the first day I went to test the bike, the Suzuki, I was in love with that bike.
Really?
Best bike I ever rode, like bar none.
No way.
Bar none. That 2003 Suzuki 250. I went to the test track and I didn't have too much time that day because I had to do something else later, but I get on the bike, fits like a glove. Like I go on the track, I start jumping like nearly like a lane-to-lane shit that no one's jumped before. I felt so comfortable on it. Love the bike. Best bike I ever rode, like bar none.
What was it about that bike?
I don't know. It was great. Like I even had them make it less powerful because it was too strong most of the time. Too fast, especially in Supercross. So I had them detune it a little bit. But just the way it just felt great. I loved that bike. It was amazing. And that year was really hard for me because the bike was great. I was training really hard. Like I remember because I took a pretty big pay cut going to Suzuki because of like how it happened. I couldn't really keep my trainer. So my mom and dad ended up coming to the States to spend the year with me. And so I trained a lot with my dad at my side, right? And so I did a lot of riding, more than usual. So more riding than gym or anything like that. So I was always at the test track. And like 3 weeks before the season started, I was doing like 220 lap motos at the test track, no problem. Same lap time, everything. Like I felt good. Like I felt good enough to win the championship that year. That's how good I was feeling. And I was like maybe like a second faster than Tortelli every lap. And I could keep it up for 20 minutes, for 20 laps, no problem. And all of a sudden, 2 weeks before the season starts, I get really tired. Go to the test track. I do like 2 laps. I'm exhausted. Turns out, Epstein Barr. So after the first race, so I didn't tell Roger that I was feeling like that because I wanted to see how the race was going to go. And yeah, I got a good start, I think top 3, and then I ended up finishing like 6 or 7 because I faded so fast. And that's when we did the test, and I had a really early case of Epstein Barr. So then the coaster sent me to one of his guys that deals with Epstein Barr. They put me on a very strict program of like the shit I had to do. Like my mom, for example, my mom had to cook. Everything she had to cook had to be like fresh vegetables and stuff. Everything had to be sterilized before I ate it. So all the plates and forks, everything sterilized. I had to take naps every day. I had to do it was a very, very strict program to get back from underneath it, basically, right? So it took me a while, and then so through the Supercross season, I was getting better and better to where I got to the point where I could do 10 laps at the same speed and then fading, and then I was 12 laps, and so I was getting back up to both my speed and my stamina, and yeah, the next part is what really like mentally it kind of broke me. So I don't know if it was Pontiac or another East Coast race. But the start was a long start with a 180 turn. And then the rhythm was like kind of like a step over for like 3-footer, 5-footer step over. And then there was a lot of G-forces. And then so it was like a 3-footer, backwards ski ramp at the end. So we would go step over and then over the backwards ski ramp, right? It's a pretty technical section. And the G out was pretty strong here because of like the speed and stuff. And that one lap, like I was feeling really good, going really fast, and I come in and on the step over, I stayed very low, more than usual, kept my speed higher than usual, and right at the bottom bugged.
Yeah.
I think because like it just kicked, the gas didn't go in for like a split second, right? And I ended up like having to jump off the bike, landed on the face of the backward ski ramp with my feet first. And that's when I broke my left fibula and tibia. And it was a bad break. Like it wasn't just a break, like the bone actually crushed itself on like this, right? It wasn't like this, it just went.
Because you've got the two bones there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it went down like that. And my malleolus, so on the left side of my foot, that broke in half, right? Some of the most pain I've ever experienced. And the coaster never believed me that the bike bugged. Like he always thought that I made a mistake. I love that bike. I never said one bad thing about that bike ever. Best bike I ever ridden. Never had a problem with it. And so that really helped me, like mentally.
Because the Costa didn't believe what you said?
Yeah, that and the fact that, didn't believe me when I loved the bike. The bike was fucking great. It just fucking happened, right? But also, training so hard the year before, being in such great shape, getting Epstein Barr, working so hard to get back from underneath Epstein Barr, finally getting back to almost where I was. Fucking bike bugs, fucking freak accident. Had a really bad injury to my leg, right? It took me like 4 months to recover. So that year broke me mentally. And so by the end of it, I was like, fuck it, I don't give a shit anymore. And I remember going to the races actually happy because I did not give a shit. I was just there to enjoy the races. And so I was racing 125 because they put me back down on 125 to recover from the injury. And I didn't like the 125 and I wasn't doing good. So I told Roger, just put me on 250. Like, what do you have to lose, right? Nothing. So they agreed to put me on 250 and that was right before Butts Creek that year. And I ended up getting, I think, 4th and 2nd place or 3rd and 2nd. I don't remember. But it was great. Like I remember the 2nd moto, I think I hung with Ricky for a while until the end. And then he pulled away at the end a little bit. So going back up to the 250 was good. And then I did pretty good the rest of the series, but I didn't have a deal for the next year. That's when I decided to go down to a pro circuit. But yeah, that year broke me mentally, dude. I was done. I was done with the sport. I was done with all of it. Like, I was just sick of it. Sick of it.
I understand how hard that shit must be. Just because it's like you're climbing a mountain.
Yeah.
And then you get knocked back down. And then you climb a mountain and you get knocked back down. And I mean, you were multiple championships, 2 points behind, 2 points, like so close so many times. And I mean, it is like mentally a war of attrition, right? Like to actually be able to get yourself to a place where you can mentally be like in the game.
Yeah, and that's why I'm impressed with riders like Roxanne, for example, and similar riders that have gone through they've gone, because I don't think I could have done it. Like, it takes a lot to come back from that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I have mad respect for riders that have gone through, like, nearly injuries like that and multiple times, sometimes. It's pretty amazing. But, that was a hard year for me mentally. And so then I found a deal with, I think it was motorsports.com at the time, with Yamaha.
Yeah.
And I was about to sign when Mitch reached out to me. And I was like, okay, yeah, cool, let's do it. I know how Mitch is, how hard he works his riders. I didn't have a problem with it. I was like, yeah, I'm just going to listen to Mitch. We're going to get along. And it was great. Like, I really enjoyed being at Pro Circuit.
Yeah. How long were you there in the end? 3 years?
2 years.
2 years?
Yeah. 2 years. So 2004 was my first year, and that was, but that's just the time I battled with Stewart at Vegas.
Yeah.
I was fucking high on Vicodin too back then.
Really?
Yeah, because I had my back. So when I broke my leg at Suzuki, right?
Yeah.
It was a really bad break, and I had to be on narcotics for a while. So I kind of got addicted on them a little bit. And then when I started having back issues, like back problems, I started taking narcotics again because I saw so many doctors and no one could tell me what was wrong with my back. Like nothing, there's no hernia, no compressed disc, no nothing, right? It's just perfect shape. But
what was the pain?
Nerve pain.
Yeah, okay.
It's like internal, right?
Yeah,
and,
that deep burning.
Yeah, and it's like when you don't move, for a bit, it just like hurts and hurts and hurts and hurts so bad, and it was getting worse and worse. And no matter how many MRIs I did, doctors I saw, no one could tell me why I was getting that pain. So I ended up being on narcotics for like close to a year.
Oh yeah.
And and at that point, I had to take narcotics to even race, because otherwise I couldn't even finish a moto because the back pain was so bad, right? So at Vegas, I was high on Vicodin before that race, and I remember like I've actually never raced better because like I was relaxed and having fun.
No way.
It's crazy.
That's one of the best races of all time.
Yeah. It was fun. Like I had so much fun on that race. Like the end of the race bummed me out because I went to shake James's hand or congratulate him, and he blew me off.
Really?
Yeah. That pissed me off. Well, it didn't piss me off, but it kind of like bummed me out more than anything. And he did get a bunch of shit for it. And the next race at Hangtown, when we raced again pretty hard. That time at the end it was better. But I think it was pissed because at one point in the race, and I didn't do it on purpose, but it was like a 90-degree left, step on, step off triple.
Yeah.
And he was on the left, I was on the right. So he jumps, and then I cut left underneath him. And then I thought I was a little bit more ahead of him on the triple, and I scrubbed it and looked back, and he was right there next to me, and I almost hit his front wheel. Which, like you don't do that. That's dangerous, right?
Yeah,
and so I didn't realize that, and so maybe he thought that I did it on purpose, which, I would be mad too if a rider did that to me on purpose. So maybe that's why at the end he was, I don't know, pissed off or blew me off. But that was a fun race. Like I had fun that race.
Man, I remember being a kid and I had the Bar to Bar 2004 DVD. And the first time I watched that race, I was like, jaw dropped on the ground, just glued to the television, being like, I cannot believe what I'm watching right now. And then the very next weekend, so we would get like the DVD. We couldn't watch races live in Australia, right?
Then,
So like the Bar to Bar would come out, and then the AMA DVD would come out. You just get them at the same time. And so like me and my brother would like go home, and we'd watch every single round of Supercross, and then we'd watch every single, just full marathon of like getting this series. And it was that, and then it went to Hangtown, like, obviously it was 2 weeks later, but we watched it straight away. And I was just like, holy fuck, Roncadas the man. But that was probably one of the best battles anyone ever gave James on a 250.
Yeah, back then, yeah. No, he was really above everyone. Like the way he rode that 125. I mean, it was a fast 125. Don't get me wrong. Like,
but a 125 is a 125.
It's a 125. But I will say, like, dude, he would fucking pull away from me in uphills at Hangtown sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, like that 125 ripped. And you can always say where you take the corner better, come out of the turn faster and stuff. But there are times where I would come out of the turn and gain on him, and then up the hill, like same, or just. So that was a fast 125. Now, I don't think anyone else could have rode it as good as he did. He was amazing on that thing, and he made some good battles. Because I don't think if he was on a 250, maybe we wouldn't have those battles. Because James was kind of, he's a step higher than everyone back then.
Yeah.
So it was a good thing that he was on 125. It gave everyone some good racing. And both those races were fun. Hangtown was pretty fun too. I just wish I could have beat him at one of them. Because, as good as it was, I didn't beat him. He won in the end.
Fuck, you raced everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, I raced a lot of people.
Like, really? Like, you had a crazy career of racing. I mean, in that era.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a whole era that comes after that. But man, for that era, like you raced all those guys in their prime.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I always wanted to race against McGrath, so it was pretty amazing when I went to the 250 class and started racing against Jeremy. That was really cool. Like I always wanted to race against him and at least beat him once, and I did. So that was like like something of my bucket list.
Yeah. Who was maybe not who was the best, but like, I don't know, who were some of the best guys to race against, and like what made these great riders so great?
Best guys to race against? And I think they were all really good in their own ways. Like take Wyndham, how amazing he is on the bike and smooth and stuff, and McGrath, the way he rode, and even guys like LaRocco, right, and how aggressive he was, right? Like you really have to know who you're racing, because you have to race different racers differently, right? Like I was talking about earlier, you don't open the door to Mike LaRocco, which I did at Redbird, and I had a headache for 2 laps after. But they were, I don't really remember racing anyone that I didn't enjoy racing. I was like, I wish that guy wasn't there. It's interesting. It's weird when you're racing against your childhood heroes, right? Because you want to beat them, you're there to beat them, but they're still your heroes. So it's like, it's interesting to race against people like that.
When you end up having the painkiller problems that you had, is that ultimately what ruined your career?
Yes and no. It was a big part of it. But the problem with my back is it's just chronic pain. And
do you still have it?
Yeah. It's not as bad because what I had to do is it's a small surgery. They don't put you under or anything, but they go in and they cauterize the nerves. So they burn them, basically, right? So I had to get it done 3 or 4 times, I think. And the doctor told me, like, every time we cauterize them, they grow back, right? But after doing it enough time, they might not grow all the way back. So at one point, you won't have to do it again anymore, right? So, but yeah, like, even with narcotics, I had to stop racing. Like, I got to the point where I think it was at Portugal in 2004, that same year, where I just had to quit halfway through the moto and told Mitch, like, I can't do it anymore. So yeah, that really sucked. And the problem with narcotics too, like, narcotics are so bad. They're such a bad. I don't know how it is now in the sport if people talk about it more, but I feel like it's very important that racers are aware, like fully aware of the dangers of narcotics. I know now
What were you on?
I was on Norco, 10 milligrams.
Yes, I've had a Norco. Yeah.
Which is way stronger than Vicodin.
Yeah.
And I was taking 7 or 8 a day.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was bad. And the problem with narcotics is that it completely removes the ability for your body to fight against the pain itself.
On its own.
Yeah, on its own, right? So the more you take, the worse it gets, right? It's a very vicious circle. So, and back then they would give it away like fucking candy.
I had a ex-girlfriend and her brother used to just fucking take him for fun all the time. I'd never heard of it. He's like, they'd come home. He actually lived with us for a while, and he was just fucking play PlayStation and pop Norcos, and I was just like, he had one day. I was like, holy fuck, dude! Like, how many of these things are you taking? Just like a post work, that was his wind down, was just fucking pop these things. I was like, bro.
Yeah, and they're so fucking addictive. Like, your body gets used to them so quick, and then you're fucked.
That's gnarly.
Yeah, like, dude, like, I used to do some crazy shit to get them when the doctors didn't want to prescribe them anymore.
Really?
I actually ended up ordering stuff online, coming from fucking Colombia and shit.
No way.
Yeah, it was bad.
Fuck. How long do you reckon you struggled with it?
2 years.
2 years?
Yeah. 2 years.
And like, you lose those years, right?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's very hard to be productive, I'm assuming, in those years.
Well, as long as you're on them, no. Like, it depends on people, right? People are affected differently by drugs, right? Like, for me, like, hydrocodone just makes me the best of myself almost. It's like I'm happy, I want to do things, I'm productive, I'm like I've rest better, it doesn't put me to sleep or anything. But when you come off of them, it's when the shit starts, right? That's when it gets really bad. So it got to the point where I was in so much pain that like I didn't care where I was getting it from. Like I had to find some, because the pain was like intolerable. It was so bad. So it was pretty crazy.
And so how did you get off that?
I tried to commit suicide actually in 2000 at the end of 2004, I think.
Really?
Wait, hold on. Yeah, I think it was the end of 2004. So basically, after I stopped racing that year, I told Mish I had to go to France to figure out what the fuck is going on with my back and to get better. And I went to France, and they finally figured out what was wrong with it and stuff. But I was already hooked on bike riding and stuff back then. And so I went to France, and I did get better. Kind of almost completely got off the narcotics. Came back to the States, but it was still hard, right? Like I was still having a lot of like withdrawal effects, right? But I started riding again and stuff. My speed wasn't there, of course. I was going to take some time and stuff, and I wanted to race the East Coast to get more time to get ready, right? And Mitch decided to put me on the West Coast instead. And I wasn't very happy about it. And I think in the end, he did it to push me. Like sometimes when you, not to push me, maybe, but to motivate me, right? To train hard and stuff.
Put you back against the wall in a way.
Yeah, in a way, right?
Yeah.
The problem is that they kind of had the opposite effect on me. And because I was always I always hated letting people down.
Yeah.
As much as I didn't show it, because all those people work so fucking hard for you, right? Like they get up at the crack of dawn in the morning, right, to work on your bike, to go testing, to get stuff ready. Like it's all about you, right? And there are only 2 riders on the team, right? Or when there are 4 per circuit, but still, it's a lot of people. Their whole lives revolves on you, right? So when you don't do good, it's hard. It was hard for me when I didn't do good because I always felt like I let everyone down. And just the thought of, I knew I wasn't ready. I knew I was going to struggle and it was going to be bad. And I don't know, and the pain was coming back too. My back pain was coming back again. And I just didn't see any way out. Like I was pretty much at the end of my rope, basically. And I'm only here today because of my ex-wife, Carly. She's the one that saved my life. But yeah, basically that day I threw out the house. I locked everything. I turned the power off. I think I'd done like 500 pills. I was done.
Really?
Yeah, I was done. Completely done.
Fuck. So it wasn't even a full pain thing. It was almost like you just didn't really see a way to keep living your life.
Yeah. It was because I didn't see a way to deal with the pain without being on drugs, because how intense it was getting again. I knew I was going to let everyone down. And yeah, I mean, you can say at the end of the day, like suicide is kind of a coward's way out, right? And yeah, I was done. It's very cowardly to do.
Yeah.
And not many people that attempt it get a second chance.
Yeah.
I got really lucky that my ex-wife Carly at the time, she definitely felt something was wrong. She came back to the house, jammed the fence, and she found me on the ground, just almost dead.
No way, dude. I actually had no idea.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And then I was spending like a week in the ER, or not the ER, but
like in intensive care or something.
Intensive care. And I really took that as a second chance.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it wasn't a cry for help. I was done. I wanted to end it. Like there was no other way for me. And so I really took it as a second chance. And that's when I got my shit together. And, but one thing that really helped me is that, so I went to inpatient therapy, right? Because you have to go to inpatient after you try to commit suicide. Like they don't let you walk out, right?
Yeah.
Was there for a while, and they were giving me that new drug back then, that you give to addicts, basically. So
What was it?
it's called Suboxone.
Okay.
And so you know about methadone.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that one's bad. That one sucks. Like there was lots of problems with it.
Yeah.
But Suboxone is like kind of like the new version of that. That's a lot better, and it's kind of like a miracle drug, to be honest. And that's what they give to drug addicts that to try to get them off. Because what it does is that it gives your body the amount of narcotics that it needs, but blocks all euphoric effects. So I can't get drunk, for example, even if I wanted to.
Wow.
Yeah, or if I smoke weed or try to get drunk, that doesn't work. Or like even like stuff like codeine or heroin or anything like that, right? It just blocks it completely. So I'm afraid to get hurt, because when I get hurt nowadays, well, first of all, I can't take narcotics, so I'll never take them again. But even if I wanted to, they don't do shit.
Because of this drug.
Yeah.
Huh.
So that drug kind of saved my life, because after I left the inpatient place, I started feeling bad again, and I was like withdrawal effects, and I started like being depressed again, and I was like, what the fuck? Because I felt okay in there, right? And then that's when I realized, well, I was, they were giving me that drug every day there, and so I started looking into it and started seeing a psychiatrist that could prescribe it, because back then only certain doctors and psychiatrists could prescribe it, and I started seeing one that put me back on it, and it changed my life. And so I turned my life around, and because it also helps with the pain, which is good. So, and then after that, so that's how I was able to recover from being on narcotics, basically. Like I pretty much had to die.
How many people knew about this?
A lot. Like I wasn't like I was always very open about it, talking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't anything that was hidden or anything like that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
as many people that would listen to me after that would know. Yeah.
Fuck, that's so heavy, man.
Yeah.
And your wife just had a feeling that
Mm-hmm.
something was wrong, and she went back to the house.
Yeah. She went back to the house. If she hadn't, I wouldn't be here today.
Fuck. How do you think about it now when you look back at it?
I don't know. I mean, now I have kids and everything, so it's like unfathomable. Like
Unfathomable.
Yeah, unfathomable,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
back then,
yeah.
I didn't have kids yet or anything like that. But now it's like I just feel so lucky that
Yeah.
she felt something was wrong and came back, right? Because that wasn't supposed to happen. Like I had turned the power off so no one could get into the house. So
Yeah, so you really went for it.
I was done. Yeah, I was done.
So glad that didn't happen. Like,
Me too.
it's crazy. Then, like, you look at what you've done after that, and I'm sure, like, kids and yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just wild to think, because I think that's I actually try and, I don't know. This is like how I explain this, but I don't know if it makes sense. I don't know if I don't know whether what I'm saying like resonates with people, but at the times in my life where I get down, I just feel like I'm carrying a weight,
Mm-hmm.
and just like every day it's there. Like,
Yeah.
it's my responsibility. Like, I'm the breadwinner of the family.
Yeah.
I've got all of these responsibilities. I'm the fucking public facing person. I've got employees that rely on me.
Yeah.
There's so much
pressure.
fucking shit
Yeah.
that is on my shoulders, and especially with our warehouse burning down. Like, there was probably a point where I could have just been like, you know what, fuck it, I'll quit this.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
I'm not going to do the podcast anymore. I've got this fucking sick studio. I'll do rentals. I'll make a fucking few grand a month. Like, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And then even that, it's like, nah, bro. Like, you don't even have that now. And it's like, so the times in my life, you just feel heavy and you just get sick of the responsibility.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I mean, it never makes, I wouldn't say I'm depressed or, you know, like I'm fine with my life. But when I hear what you're saying, that's what resonates is like, I'm like, fuck, I can see you just get sick of fucking carrying the weight and you just don't see a way out of your life in the way.
It's really a sickness. Like I used to not understand why people would be depressed. Because I've always been like really happy-go-lucky. Everything happens for a reason, right? Always. But there was nothing I could do against this when I was this depressed. Like I couldn't do anything about it. Like it's fucked up.
Yeah.
It really, really is fucked up. And it's really a sickness. It's and I think it's something that's affecting a lot of people that maybe don't realize it, and you don't know what to do.
Yeah. What would you do?
Weird.
What would you do different, knowing what you know now? Like, if you could go back to that moment, obviously, like you can't change it, but like knowing what you know on the other side of it, like if you could go back there, like, do you think there's anything that you could have done differently before that moment, or do you think it literally just you had to go through that?
I don't think so. No, I don't think I could have done anything differently. I think everything happens for a reason, and like it was meant to happen, right? Like, it's the same thing with people that are on drugs, right? You cannot help them until they want to help themselves. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah,
they have to hit rock bottom and decide to help themselves. Until then, it's like throwing rocks at a wall.
Yeah.
My rock bottom was trying to commit suicide, right? And so I don't think anything else would have changed that. I just got really lucky.
Yeah.
That I had people around me that, that were there for me, basically.
How did the industry deal with it?
Pretty good, actually. Because I was very open about it, talking about it and stuff. So
yeah, because I remembered that it was a thing. I didn't know that you tried to commit suicide though, but yeah, I knew that it was like an out there thing.
Yeah, no, they were good. Like, so I came back to racing the next year. It took me about a year, right? And Pro Circuit kept me on the payroll that whole time.
Really?
So that was pretty nice of them. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. No, that was really cool. And I ended up coming back to race with Yamaha, for motorsports, I think, Yamaha Motorsports back then.
Yeah.
But I had lost too much. It's like, that edge wasn't there anymore, and I just couldn't. Like, I decided to retire when I was at High Point, and because that year, I didn't even qualify for a Supercross race, right? The bike was okay, it wasn't the best bike, but it was fine. The motocross bike was great. I had no problems with it. It was an awesome bike. And I didn't qualify at Hangtown. And I was good in motocross, but I didn't qualify at Hangtown. I didn't qualify at the next race, I think. So we got to High Point, and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? And so I decided, okay, I'm going to try to go fast for a lap, see if I can keep up. If I can't, even go fast because I knew I was out of shape. I wasn't training or anything like that, right? But, you can be out of shape and still be fast, right? So if I could be fast for a lap, then I was willing to keep going. And I couldn't. I mean, I tried hard and I just couldn't keep up for one lap. That's when I was like, it's gone. Not there anymore. And that decision to retire that day was like the biggest weight off my shoulder ever.
Yeah.
I felt so freaking good after that. Because like the team that hired me, Yamaha Motorsports back then, they were counting on me, right? Like I was still a big caliber rider, even though I went through all that shit. So they were kind of counting on me to
you were like a big get for them.
Yeah. And I completely let them down. Like completely. So like when I decided to retire halfway through the season, they didn't have to pay me anymore, right? And I already had a job lined up with a video game company back then. It was 2XL Games, and I had already signed a contract with them for $60,000 a year, I think, to work on video games. So I already had a job lined up because they told me like when you decide to retire, we can put you on the payroll now, and just you can retire whenever you retire, and then you can work full time. So it was an easy decision for me because I already had a backup plan, and I felt so good that day.
Would have been
like
just the biggest
best
relief.
feeling. Oh my God, I felt so good. A big smile on my face, like I was just happy.
And then when you look back at your career, like how do you feel about it?
I feel okay. Like I really wanted to win a 250 championship, like a flagship title. I feel like I could have done a lot better if it wasn't for some of the hardship I had to go through. But every rider goes through hardships, right? More or less. The problem with me is that I've always had kind of like health issues. Even when I was training really hard, there was always something. I mean, in 2000, I remember like I was happy when it was fucking 200 degrees outside because I knew everyone was gonna fade and I was gonna finish the motos no problem. I was training really hard. But then after that, in 250, that's when I started getting sick all the time and shit. And so I always had like health issues no matter what I tried to do, which really kept me down a lot. So yeah, I really wish that would have gone better. But I'm still happy with my career. Like I had a good career. I had fun doing it, except for maybe a year or two. I got to travel the world, when I was racing in Europe. I got to achieve my dream of coming here. I did win a championship here, even if it was only a 125 championship. So, and I'm also pretty happy that I was able to do something else after I retired that I still love. Like I feel so fortunate that my whole life I was racing motorcycles, which I love, and now I'm working on video games, which I love. Like I never had a job in my career. I don't consider what I do now a job either, because I love doing it. So I feel super fortunate about that.
Yeah. Oh, it's huge, man. And I was thinking that earlier, like when we were just talking, just kind of generally in my head, I'm like, this guy's literally just done what he's wanted to do the whole time. Like you're a dirt bike racer that was a video game nerd, and then when you weren't a dirt bike racer, you were a professional video game nerd. So it's just like you kept kind of just doing the thing that you wanted to do, right?
Yeah, and working on motocross games, right? It's like I don't want to work on any other games than motocross games, right? So yeah, I feel super fortunate. So that was really cool. But to quickly get back to like how the industry kind of took it, back then, with my Swiss adaptant and stuff, I was surprised because they took it very well in the sense that when I came back to racing after, like I had a lot of like riders and privateers like come up to me and say, hey, we're really glad to have you back. Like, like it's really cool to have you here. Like a lot of support that I didn't especially expect.
Yeah.
That was really cool.
That stuff stays with you too, eh?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does.
God, that's just fuck, bro. I can't imagine the trauma.
Yeah, no, it's
and like that week in hospital, and like, did you regret it straight away? Like when you,
as soon as I woke up.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't regret it, but as soon as I woke up and I realized I was still alive, that's when I was like, that's my second chance. Like straight up, like I wasn't depressed or anything anymore. I wasn't like, what the fuck am I doing here? Like as soon as I woke up, it was like, yeah.
Did you feel dead in between waking up and like, that's such a weird zone.
I don't even remember going down.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I think I took like 400 pills.
How did you have that many saved up?
I didn't. I had to go to the store and get some.
So what pills did you try and take?
Just like Advil, I don't know, Benadryl, just anything I had.
Just everything?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah. I had to go to the store to get more because didn't have enough. Yeah.
That's so gnarly. I want, like you think about, I'm not very religious.
Me neither. Yeah.
So I don't think we go anywhere. Like, I don't know how people can take that for what they want. And I don't know that I need to go anywhere. Like, this is how I've felt my entire life. Like, ever since I was a kid. Like I've thought about it a lot. I went to a Catholic school, so the whole concept of that was just very in my face my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, fuck. I don't remember I've already not existed once.
Yeah.
And I don't remember.
You don't remember it, yeah.
I don't even remember the first 3-4 years of existing. Like I just, I don't know that I'm going to really be that bummed when I don't exist the second time, you know, like already there. But yeah, it's like you did not exist for a period of time. And like, if it wasn't for medical intervention, you would still not exist.
Yeah.
Like that's such a weird thing to go through and like wake up from thinking that you were dead.
Oh, yeah. Like, and I was clinically dead, I think, for a bit.
Really?
Yeah. But when I woke up, it was like waking up after a night's sleep.
From a sleep, yeah.
Yeah, except, I was pretty fucked up. Like, my internals, like, they had to purge me and stuff. And, but it was like waking up from, some people say they have experiences, that definitely did not happen for me. Just kind of woke up.
Wild, eh?
Yeah.
It's great. It's wild to think about. Like, it's like a morbid conversation, but it's like you literally were on the other side. It's like nothing there. Like I just was fucking.
At least not for me. Yeah. There was nothing there. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy, man. Just crazy to go through that, and I can't imagine what it would be like to wake up and then like it is almost a new life. Like you're on the other side of a completely different.
Yeah.
Just a completely different thing.
The thing I feel really bad about is putting people through that, like my ex-wife, what she had to go through with that, right? And my recovery and like I remember when I was on narcotics, like she stuck by me the whole time, right? And when I put my parents through, doing that, like, I can never take that back, right? I always feel bad about that, no matter what.
Did it bring you closer in a weird way?
With my parents? Well, with I'm super close with super close, like we're very close with my parents in a way that, I talk to them, a few times a year, sometimes more, and we keep in touch with the kids and photos and stuff. But I can never repay my parents enough for what they've done for me.
Yeah.
For my career, right? In fact, when I came to the States, they sold their store in France. They gave me the $100,000 to come to the States, right? They had nothing left. And their whole life, they basically... my parents used to... So they had a grocery store, a small grocery store in the streets of Valence in France. And so my dad and my mechanic, and my mom... So we used to drive to the GPs, right? So they would close the store on Fridays. Drive all fucking day sometimes to the GPs. Then on Sunday night after the GP, my dad would have to drive all night long back to France to open the store in the morning. And they did that for years. Like, I can never... I gave them a bunch of money and put them a house and paid for like half of it and stuff. But I can never repay them enough. Like, there's not enough money in the world
they sacrificed their life.
Yeah, they sacrificed everything for me.
Yeah.
Everything. And, I have 2 half-brothers too, and they sacrificed a lot too for them. Not for them, for me, but they didn't have as much attention
to give to them, yeah.
Give to them because of me, right? So, yeah, like... So, my mom was mad at me for a while after my suicide attempt.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah, she was mad. She didn't want to talk to me for a little bit.
I had... I've had a couple of friends commit suicide when I was younger, and it was a wild experience because like I didn't even see it coming, and like one of the boys was like really like a really close friend,
Yeah.
And I just didn't I hung out with him every day.
Yeah, you usually don't see it coming.
And like I didn't see it coming, and then we were kind of fucked up kids. We were in like a fucked up neighborhood, and there was a lot of negative, bad shit going on in like the place where we grew up. But like I get it. Like the people that did, like they had shit lives, But it was crazy to me, like especially with Jason when he did it. like the funeral was always crazy to me because so many people came and it's like our whole fucking town stopped, you know. And I'm like, man,
Small town too?
small town, yeah. I'm like, if he could be here right now and see this, like, would he still do that?
Yeah.
And like, I just think the answers would always be no. You know what I mean? Like, and again, that may be like naive to say that, but it's like
it's hard to say, huh?
You
would hope so, right?
Yeah, and like people, I don't think people grasp, and even if it's not the whole town showing up, but like how much your parents actually love you.
Yeah.
And how much it would hurt those people, and it is the people that you leave behind that. And it's like, and if you really knew, and I think when you survive something like that, you actually get a picture of what it does to other people.
You do, yeah, big time. I mean, it's really selfish when you think about it, you know? And yeah, like, and I think that's why when I woke up and I realized I was still alive, you know, it was like, it wasn't even a question for me to do it again. Like, it was literally, that's my second chance. That's it. That's all there is to it.
And how, like, guess life's turned out pretty good since then.
Yeah, it has, you know. I mean, you know, I retired from racing earlier than I wished I would have, but I had a job lined up at a video game company working on Motocross game. You know, I had a kid on the way. Yeah, I mean, life's been good.
So, actually, I'll piss one more time, then we'll go into the video game stuff.
Okay, sounds good.
So, you go to the video game company.
Yeah.
What was your role and experience, and like what position did you kind of go into there?
So when I first went into it, it was for 2XL games, and back then we were working on mobile games.
Okay.
So we did 2XL Supercross for iPhone, and then we did 2XL ATV Off-Road Fury.
Yep.
We did Ricky Carmichael's motocross matchup on iPhone. That's when we started working with Ricky and GH. And I was mostly a track designer back then, so I would, you know, like build tracks. So, you know, like with you know, it's displacements. You know, you paint in black and white displacements that push the dirt up or down, stuff like that, and textures and all that stuff. Because that's kind of how I started in computers and gaming, right? So when I was still racing, because I was active with my fans online, I had made some friends that were fans of mine, that were part of the gaming community, and one day one of them tells me, you know what, there's this great game on PC, motocross game called Motocross Madness, and I'm like, oh yeah, no fucking way, and so I bought a laptop, my first computer ever, just to play that game, right? And I was completely computer illiterate back then.
Dude, I remember Motocross Madness.
Yeah, remember that?
Let me keep talking. I want to put it on my phone real quick. I want to fucking see that.
Yeah. So I buy my first laptop, and like I didn't even know that you had to install a game on the computer, right? Because I always play them on consoles, right? You just put it in and it works. But on a computer, you have to install it. I didn't even know that, right? I knew nothing about computers.
Dude, I remember this. We had this in the computers at school.
Yeah, that was good old times. Motocross Madness 2.
Yeah.
So I started playing that game, and I was playing online with some of my friends, and then one day the same guy tells me, you know, you can actually make your own tracks for Motocross Madness, and that's when I was like, oh my fucking god, no fucking way! Like my eyes, like make my own tracks. Like, what do you mean? So it was pretty cool because I then I would spend hours on the phone with some of those guys. They would teach me how to use software like Adobe Photoshop and 3D Studio Max to make tracks, right? Like, what's a displacement map? Like, how do you paint displacements to affect the ground? And how do you put it together? So they would literally spend hours with me on the phone teaching me that stuff so I could make my own tracks. And so that's kind of how I started, right, making tracks. And then the following year, they were going to, I don't know if you remember, E3 back then.
Yeah, the conference.
Yeah, pretty big, right?
Yeah.
And there was one in LA, and that's when Microsoft was working on Motocross Madness 2. And those same guys, my friends that kind of told me all that. They're like, hey, we're going to E3 and we're going to meet the team that was working on Motocross Madness 2. Do you want to come with us? I'm like, fuck yeah, I want to come. Right? So we end up going to E3.
So you're like professional Supercross racer by day.
Yeah.
On the baddest bikes, battling the fucking best dudes in the world, in the real world. And then you're in a little group of nerds that's going to the E3 conference to meet the engineers behind
That's
the
exactly
PCO.
what it was, yeah.
God, that is so sick.
And so that was back in 98.
Yeah.
So I was with Yamaha of Troy. That was towards the end of 98. So we go to E3. E3, we meet the guys. So at the time, one of the main guys there was Rob Reinhardt. Unfortunately, he's not with us anymore. He died of COVID.
No way.
Yeah, he was a good friend of mine, which kind of sucked.
Yeah, dude.
But,
How old was he?
Huh?
How old was he?
He wasn't much older than me. Like, maybe
No way.
that was a few years ago. So, yeah.
Fuck.
Maybe like 5 years older than me.
No way. That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, he's the guy behind Motocross Madness 2, ATV of 41, 2, and 3. Yep.
So like an OG.
Yeah.
Wow. That's terrible.
Yeah. It surprised me when I heard the news.
Yeah.
So anyways, we meet with him, and Rick Bultman was one of the programmers there, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a professional motocross racer. My name is Stephane Roncada, and I do this, and that, and so they were really interested, and I was like, yeah, and I love making tracks for your game, and they were like, really, and they were like, well, would you like to, do some stuff with us, like work with us? I'm like, fuck yeah, I would. So that's kind of how it started, right? And so I started a relationship with these guys, and basically I would make tracks and send it to them, and they would pay me for those tracks, right? And I would also go to Phoenix because they were based in Phoenix, and so I would go to Phoenix maybe like twice a year, and stay with Rob, go to the studio and learn more stuff, and he would give me a bunch of like new software and shit, and I would go back home all happy and stuff, and to make more tracks for them. So yeah, for like 3 years I did like tracks on the side for Motocross Madness 2, basically. That's how it started. So I went from being completely computer illiterate to teaching myself like how to do that stuff.
Yeah, and 3D Studio Max is like, that's a real program.
Yeah, it's like 3D modeling and stuff like that, right? Like Maya and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. And then when I went to Factory Kawi, like even though I still did some work with them, I did put it on the back burner a bit because, factory team and everything. And a few years later, I kind of got back in touch with them. Actually, Rob got back in touch with me, and because that's when he said, they're starting a new company called 2XL Games, and they want to make motocross games for iPhone and stuff. So that's when I kind of went back into it. And I think that was like in maybe 2003 or 2004, something like that. And so I started getting back into that world a little bit, and working with them a bit on the side. Getting back into computer graphic design, track design a bit more. And that's kind of like how it came about. And the whole thing happened because back then I was very active with my fans, and I was doing my own website, and I was reaching out to fans and stuff, and that's how I met those people that taught me how to use software, that brought me to E3. It's kind of all connected. It's pretty cool. Sorry.
No, you're right. Man, it's so incredible. Like, it's just such a cool story. And it's like the way that it's so wrapped together perfectly.
Yeah, no, it's a pretty cool story. So when I joined 2XL Games full-time is when I retired in 2006.
Yep.
And so I joined them full-time as a track environment designer. And we did 2XL Supercross and the ATV of 43 series on iPhone, and Ricky Carmichael's Motocross matchup. And I was still a track designer, making environments and tracks. But I was trying to dabble in programming a little bit because, like, the one thing that pushed me towards programming was I was getting sick and tired of programmers telling me, no, we can't do that, or it's gonna take too long, or blah blah blah. That was a fucking excuse, right? And I was like, fuck this shit. Like, I'm sick of it. So I'm gonna learn programming, and I got into my head to like learn programming, and so I started learning C#. Started doing some. I started working on my own little mobile motocross game in Unity 3D.
Yeah.
In C#, and that's kind of like how I learn programming. And
what are you programming in most now?
C++.
So still C++. Do you do any Python or?
A little bit, mostly for tools and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But Unreal Engine, which is the engine we use for MXGP ATV, is all in C++. So C++ programming. So nowadays, I mostly do programming and physics programming and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay. So that was going to be my next thing. It's like what your role is now.
Yeah. So nowadays my role. So after 2XL Games, back at the time it was BBE Games. They were bringing back MXGP ATV at that time.
Iconic.
Yeah. Right. It was after Alive. Nothing happened. Right. And then because THQ went down and stuff. So and then Nordic Games in. Like, where are they? I can't believe I'm brain farting on this. But it's a company that bought the old THQ stuff.
Yeah.
And BBE Games was like a satellite studio of them. And so they started working on bringing back the MXGP ATV franchise with MXGP ATV Supercross.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I joined them at the end of the development of Supercross. And we started doing the Supercross Encore edition. So, and at that time I was still doing mostly track design and environment design, but I was dabbling a bit more in coding with tools and stuff like that. And then BBE Games became the new Rainbow Studios in Phoenix. And that's kind of when I went full into programming because I was really enjoying it more.
Yeah.
So nowadays, like I'm kind of like I do a bit of everything. So I'm a principal tech artist. So I make tools, and I kind of bridge the gap between programmers and artists.
Yeah.
But I still do track design when we need some more hands-on. But I mostly do nowadays so physics programming, gameplay programming, tools for the artist, stuff like that.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Man, that's cool. I had no idea, and I wish I'd learnt to program sooner. Like, I'm very, very, very like rudimentary in programming, but when you can understand what programming is and how you can use programming as a tool, it completely changes the way you look at a computer, eh?
Yeah, I love programming because it's problem solving. That's all it is. It's all problem solving, and once you've been programming for long enough, all programming languages are
fairly similar.
They're very similar, right?
Yeah,
you just have to learn the syntax.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of like on your way, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I really enjoy programming. And like for example, like one of the stuff that was fun to do was because we used to do the trophy truck games, Monster Jam, and as a satellite game. So not a satellite game, but as a big game. So
like, because it's borrowing physics, it's like borrowing a lot of what this game has.
Yeah, like MXGP ATV is our main game. Well, now it's our only game. Now that's what we focus everything on. But back then it was MXGP ATV, and then we would do the Monster Truck game in between.
Yeah.
And then the next MXGP ATV, and then we did Monster Jam 2. And that game has a lot of destruction in it. So I had to write something for all of our destructible foliage. That basically, you can drive and destroy trees and bushes and stuff. But it's complicated because, there's so many in the worlds, and they have to be instances. They can't just be like individual meshes.
Yeah.
Or it makes the game very slow to render. So the way you have everything has to be cached, and the way when you destroy one, the way you have to like remove it from the world, and like re-add it when the game reloads and stuff. It was like like all fun stuff. So, and I learn more stuff every day because I never went to school for anything, right? I'm all self-taught.
Yeah.
And I just have a drive for learning new stuff, and I love programming. So it's really fun to work on stuff like that. And I've been working on physics more and more.
Yeah.
Physics. Well, I wouldn't say like straight up physics programming because I'm not a physics programmer. Like I couldn't program like a tire physics, for example. But like on the gameplay and the way the bike reacts and all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've been working a lot on that and a bunch of other stuff too. I have my hands a bit everywhere in the game.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's fascinating. Like, and I think it's probably like, I feel like it's very hard to even comprehend exactly what is going on unless you've like done some programming in a sense. Like I had no idea. I got to the point where we were doing, there was so much like database stuff that we were doing in the podcast. Like I'm a fucking nerd, like when it comes to like our database and like our content shit. And like even little things like when we lost the studio, I lost so much data.
Yeah.
And so we had like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes that were like on the internet that I needed to get onto a hard drive. So I'm like, surely I can fucking write a program for this, right? So like I just locked myself down for one day. I turned all my phone off and I'm like, I'm very basic with programming. Now with ChatGPT, it helps so much more. But I literally like wrote a program that downloaded every single piece of content that was on the internet. And then I got it and it was just like hundreds of gigs. And I'm like, fuck, this is a mess. So then I had to like write a program that then like basically like just passed all the information, created, folded, like, but that just in those, like doing those things, you can really, it like expands your mind to like what's actually possible. And that's like the smallest time, like that's the first like knocking on the door of what's actually possible. But it fully,
that's pretty cool stuff, huh?
It was mind blowing, like completely mind blowing that you could like really, you could make a computer, you using a computer as an extension of your own mind, essentially.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Yeah, even with like fuck, what's it called? Like what's the name of it already? Machine learning.
Yeah.
Right. Someone has to program that.
Yes.
Right. The machine didn't just write the code by itself. Right. Someone had to write the code to machine learn.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's amazing. Like what's possible. It's I think that's why I like programming so much, and especially because I learn new stuff every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's really cool. Love it.
Do you follow much? Have you ever heard of Joshua Bark?
No.
Man, he's like programming consciousness.
Oh yeah.
Like he's fucking crazy. He's like he's at MIT. And he's one of the programmers, like, well, I guess he's like a computer scientist or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, I've learned so much about programming in general just from the way that he explains, like, the way you would have to program, like,
right. Explaining is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Explaining it in a way that makes sense.
But that's what you're doing in programming, essentially, is like you're telling a computer, you're explaining to a computer what you want it to do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like it's actually pretty mind-blowing, like what we are going to be able to achieve with computer programming in the next. Not what we've achieved already, which is already just remarkable, but like where it's going in the future is crazy, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts, yeah. I mean, just look at what AI can do right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, AI is programming. Someone programmed it.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what it can do.
Yeah. Are you guys using it much at all?
No, because we don't really have, well, like the stuff we work on doesn't really benefit from AI.
Yeah.
The only thing I use it for is like, for example, when we go to compounds to take photos and stuff, we have a new compound coming for the next patch, which is going to be pretty cool.
Lawrence Brothers compound?
I can't say who it's going to be, but it's going to be a pretty cool compound.
Sick.
It's definitely one of the top riders.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. That's sick. I'm still out of the gaming loop. Yeah. I should get a copy. actually,
Yeah.
because my wife hates racing games like that. And if you tell my wife you like FIFA, she doesn't like you. She's like one of those people. So like to have a racing game, she'd be like, "This is shit."
That's funny.
If you're gonna game, you're playing Bloodborne, or you're playing one of these games. But
I'll just send you one. Yeah,
I'm pretty out of the loop on like what they're even like these days.
it's pretty cool. Sorry, I lost my thought.
Talking about the games these days.
Yeah, the games these days, and so when we go to compounds and take, like with the drone,
Yep.
pictures and stuff. Well, the problem with the stuff that the drone captures, like the actual texture, not the displacement, it has trees and stuff in it, and we kind of have to manually. Well, we can use content aware in Photoshop. That works pretty good to remove it. But for the actual texture, like if you want to use the texture that the drone captures as a tint map to tint the ground, right? You can't have the trees and all the shadows in it because you can't have shadows in the texture, especially not with PBR rendering. So in order to remove the shadows, before we had to do that by hand, which was very time-consuming and tedious, and hard to do right. Now with AI, it's fucking amazing. Select the area you want to remove, generate.
Yeah.
It shows you three renditions of what it thinks you want, generate again, and the stuff it can do is just mind-blowing. And we do use some AI stuff for that kind of stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
It just makes all the job so much easier and faster.
Yeah, for sure. It's crazy, eh?
Yeah.
Did you have any idea what goes into a game before you started working?
Fuck no. No, I had no idea.
Really?
I was like, hey, can we do that and that? That's easy, right? It's like, well, yeah, we can do it, but no, it's not easy. I mean, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of lines of code, right? That kind of like keep a game together, right? Like you should see our code base, especially since we have code base from previous games and stuff, and
yeah,
I mean and the amount of work that goes in, because like at the surface level, you see the game and the graphics and stuff, and that's all great, right? But what people don't know is how much work goes into get networking to work correctly, for example, right?
Yes.
For racing online. That part's a bitch. Like, I'm not a network programmer. We are programmers for that. But it's insane. Like, it's a lot of work to just get networking to run correctly, right? And even though we've made a lot of progress in our networking code, we still have issues where, like the rider in front of you can skip, right? Like, when you play online, sometimes you see, like, other players, you skip frames, right? That's all networking code, and how do you, like, the kind of information you send to the server and what the server takes care of and all that stuff. And, and another thing that's really complex in MX's ATV is our deformation system, because, to deform the ground, and to have roots that actually affect the physics, right?
Yeah.
Our deformation system right now, like, as the tire deforms the ground, it actually affects the physics as it deforms, right? And it's pretty high res. But like it has to be constant across the whole map, which means that if you ride over there for half an hour and deform the shit out of it, and you go right over there for half an hour and you go back, it's still there, right? And in the game right now, we have 3 huge maps for like trails racing and stuff that are like almost 16 square kilometer, I think. And to get deformation to like not go away when you're at the other end of the world, they had to write some pretty interesting code for like caching all that stuff.
Yeah, because essentially, like, you would have to have a whole block of code that is then stored somewhere that's not being used at all. It's just got to stay in a place, and then it's like if they return back to this part, that block of code just has to go back exactly where it was.
Yeah, and it's too much data to just like kind of like store and then load and unload, right? Especially on Gen 8. So Gen 8 platforms are last gen, so PS4, Xbox One. And we're on those platforms. We're on Gen 9, which is PS5 and Xbox Series X and PC. So we still have to support Gen 8, which is hard. And so there's a lot of stuff memory-wise you cannot do on Gen 8, right? So for something like this, it's not like we can just like store, because you have to render that stuff to a texture, to something, to display it on a wall, right? We can't just store it and then reload it because it'd be way too big. So our graphics programmer had to write like a crazy cache system that basically caches small pieces of the deformation everywhere in like tiles that gets, like unwrapped and kind of like collapsed again based on where you are in the world, which is insane. Like it's crazy.
It's so cool though.
Yeah.
Like it's so nerdy. But
It is super nerdy.
But it's so cool when you like, I'm sure, to like see under the hood of like what's going on. It's like being able to read the Matrix, like really is what it's like,
Yeah. And one cool thing we're doing too with this is the first MX game that's live service. So do you know what a live service game is? So a lot of games nowadays are live service, which means that you release them, but you keep updating them, adding more content to it, fixing bugs.
Yeah.
So the game's been out for like over 2 years now or something, right? And
so what's the name of the latest one?
It's MX vs ATV Legends.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it's been a live service game since it came out, and to be perfectly honest, when the game came out, it was in great shape. Like we had a lot of work to do, and it's in much better shape now. And what something we've done that I think works pretty good is that we've really opened it up to the community, and we have a Discord server where players can come and basically listen to their feedback and problems and stuff, and we fix them as they come in, pretty much. So we have a lot of discussions with our players, and the game has really like evolved a lot based on that over the years, because we've been really active with the players in the community and listening to their feedback and problems and stuff like that, and fixing what people don't like, making things better. It's hard to juggle, because there's half your player base wants a simulation, the other half wants an arcade game, the other half wants an easy game. These guys want sliding, no sliding, sticky. It's like everyone has a different opinion, right?
Yeah.
So it's been interesting, but opening up to the players and being like really frank and honest with them and working with them to make the game better has really helped us a lot. It's been a really cool journey so far. Because we're super active with the players, like every single day on Discord, which is really cool. So like I was talking to one of the guys on Discord, I think last night, there was like mentioning like a weird bug that happened where like the bike did something really weird that it shouldn't do, right? And we're like, oh, okay, so are you on Xbox, PS4? Like, what bike are you running? And they explain it. They even post videos of the shit happening and stuff. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, cool. Let me look into that. So we're directly working with players to kind of improve the game, and we've made like huge strides over the past few years.
And
it's really like our player base is going up and up and up. I think we're over 1 million players now.
Wow.
But our game is like most people that play in single player. Like we don't have a big online presence yet.
Yeah.
Because most of our player base is just single player and like a lot of kids and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the sales, are like steadily going up. The player base is steadily going up, and I feel like being very engaged with the players, and people are fed up with being fed bullshit, right? By big companies, right? So we're very frank with them. Like even when stuff about the game sucks, I'm like, yeah, it sucks. We're gonna fix it.
Yeah, give us a chance. It's really hard.
But it's like we don't try to bullshit players, right? When something's wrong.
Yeah.
There's plenty of things with the game that we still need to improve.
Yeah, but that's a. I mean, I think that's like a modern thing now where you just kind of can't bullshit a community. You can't bullshit consumers.
Like not
people.
anymore.
It's just over. Those days are done. And I just think like people. I think the thing that people appreciate the most, and I've learned this in what I've done. Like we're a very forward-facing company. Like we put our thing out there, and then underneath every fucking video is a chance for you to tell me how much I suck. So the thing that I've learned in that time is that people just really appreciate authenticity and accountability.
Yeah. Oh yeah, big time.
If they can, like, I'm not a crazy gamer, right? But if you can acknowledge to your players, okay, hey, this fucking sucks.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're working on it. Give us a chance. Be open to people's feedback. Don't be, what's the word I'm looking for? Like defensive.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
the biggest thing.
No, it's actually like there's criticism that is relevant and irrelevant, and you need to be able to filter that. But there's comments people make on this podcast where I'm like, hey, bro, you're fucking right. Sucks to hear it.
Yeah.
Because it's about me as a person. But you're fucking right, dude. Like, I'm a bit of a loser sometimes.
I give you that.
I get it. I fucking get it, you know. But if you can't do that and everyone's just a hater and everyone else is wrong, sorry, bro. Like 2024 ain't for you.
Yeah.
Because that's just not how shit works, you know.
No, you're absolutely right. And we've also noticed that like big time, like being honest and not being defensive. Like sometimes we have like new people that come on the Discord, right? That are pretty aggressive at first, like, you know, like what the fuck, guys? You haven't fixed that, you suck. But instead of being defensive or aggressive, we're like, yeah, we know that sucks. Like, what's the problem you're having? And we found that by being, by taking accountability, right, for things we know sucks, right, and working with people, usually like the tone goes down really quick.
Yeah.
And it's like, it goes from like, you guys suck to, oh yeah, thank you, that's great. Like, how can I help more?
Yeah.
In a way, right?
Yeah.
And because, people are fed up by being fed bullshit.
Yeah.
And, you know, people not taking any accountability.
Yeah.
So...
especially in that space too, right?
Yeah.
Like one of the examples I know is like the Cyberpunk thing.
Yeah.
It was just sold as like, this is going to be
Well, that was bad.
the best game that's ever been made. And like my wife's like, I can't wait for Cyberpunk. Like, can't wait for this to come out. This is going to be and then it was fucking shit.
It was bad.
And everyone was just like, fuck you guys.
Yeah.
Big time. You know, and the amount of pushback they got, and like they had to fix quick.
Yep.
Like they really had to. You can't hide from the internet in 2024.
No.
Like unfortunately, the internet always wins, and people are. If there's like enough of a community of people, like they have power more than what you think, and it's like you can't push back, especially if it's right.
Yeah, exactly.
It's this applies to. I'm only saying this for when they're right. You know.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. Like, and Cyberpunk really turned it around big time. They went to work, you know. They fixed all the crap that they promised, and the game now is really good. But yeah, man, that was a rough start. Holy shit, that was bad.
So what's the what's cool too? Like from this, like we haven't spoke too much before the pod, so I didn't really know like how your role and stuff, but like you're really into this. Like this is like a love for you. This working on this game.
No, it is, and like one thing that's been a bit difficult for me is, and the studio now is like really starting to turn around, right? But the problem with motocross games is when you have the wrong people working on them, right? It's a very niche thing. Not many people understand motocross, right? Or what comes with it, right? And the problem is when you have a studio that has a bunch of people that don't know anything about motocross working on a motocross game. That's a big problem. And over the past few years, I've really been like pushing to change that, basically, right? And it has been changing. We went through a lot of changes, and I feel like now we're in a much better place too. The studio is smaller. But we also have like passionate people working on the game, which makes a big difference. Because you cannot make a good motocross game if you don't have passionate people, gearheads working on the game. Yeah, it's just not possible. And that's been like back in the days, like in Reflex days, right? Like there were a lot of gearheads at Rainbow working on the game. I think that's why Reflex was such a good game. I mean, it has its problems, but it's still to this day, Reflex is a great game. There's no denying that, right? And that's because of who worked on the game. And often, like bigger studios and stuff they don't really understand that perspective. Motocross is too niche you need to have the right people working on it.
And the thing I think as well with motocross is this is what makes going to the races very special, and it's what makes the community so great is if you're a fan, you ride.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing, like you look at Tony Hawk Pro Skater,
Mm-hmm.
that game sold over 1 billion copies, 1.4 billion copies, right?
Yeah. It's huge.
1.4 billion people don't skate.
No.
So they don't fucking know the difference. But if you're playing a motocross game, like chances are you ride motocross.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's been kind of very important for me, and our CEO definitely understands that, which has taken the studio in a much better place, in my opinion. We also have great track designer. Tony and Dylan are doing an amazing job. Tony's a gearhead. Like, he's rode his whole life. Dylan came from Forza, actually. He used to work on Forza. Didn't know too much about MX when he came working for us. But ever since he came working for us, he's one of those guys that, okay, I'm working on a motocross game, I'm going to learn everything I need to know about motocross. And it's been amazing. Like, they're doing such a fucking good job designing tracks. And it's people like that you need working on a motocross game. Now, there are stuff like networking and stuff like that has nothing to do with motocross.
Yeah, that's just purely nuts and bolts.
Yeah, like you can have a bunch of, you can have geeks that don't know anything about motocross working on that, right? That's fine. But for the core part of the game, that's super
the physics,
important.
the tracks,
Yeah.
the bikes.
And even like the feel, right? Like the way the rider is on the bike, the way the bike looks, just everything, right? Like there's very small things sometimes that, if you get it wrong on a bike, you're going to hear about it, right? Like there is a special feel, a special aura, right? That people that are not in the sport don't understand. And if those people work on the game and they don't understand the sport, you can really feel it in the end product. And that was, I think, the biggest issue when we first released is, the studio was bigger back then and just too many people that weren't really gearheads working on it. So it's a much better place now.
So the game now, like where do you guys go from here? Like what plans do you guys have for the game, and like where do you think it sits in the ecosystem of motocross games at the moment?
So the plan right now, we're still focusing 100% on season 4. So it's going to be our 4th season of because it's a live service game. So it's going to be our 4th season, and I think we're going to reveal soon what's going to come in that season. And then it's probably going to be our last season before we start working on a new game.
Yeah.
But as far as like where the game sits, like right now it sits very well because on PC you have the simulators like MX Simulator and MX Bikes, which are really like, well, say simulation, but I don't know, like it's never like I try to play them and they're so hard. Yeah. But MX Bike, looks in first person and stuff. When you know how to play the game, looks amazing. Like it looks really good. Like they did such a good job with the way the first person looks when you know how to play the game. So there's some really good stuff on PC, and on console, there was the milestone games which they stopped doing for a year. They're doing more Supercross 25, I think. So we'll see how that goes. But there is not too much on consoles right now, so we're sitting pretty good. But we've been working a lot to improve the current game, because all of that work that we're doing is going to go into the next game. Yeah. And so working hard to make the current one better and fix as many problems as we can really helps for the development of the next game. Now, the physics stuff, there is always a big discussion about physics for motocross games. Because, like I said, you have half players that want simulation, the other half that wants arcade, and anyone in between, they want something completely different.
So can you maybe, for non-gamers, can you explain the difference between arcade and sim?
So simulation is what you play the game is, if you case a jump, you're going to maybe crash, right? You can take a turn wide open at 60 miles an hour. You might slide a little more, or it's just harder to play, right? Like, for example, when you play with the joystick and you lean the bike over, in a more simulation game, you have to lean it back, right? You control everything. Where in an arcade game, there is a lot of helpers. Like we do a lot of things behind the scenes that help the player, right? Like there's a shit ton of things behind the scenes that actually automate some of that stuff, right? So when you lean the bike over and you let go of the sticks, it comes back automatically, right? Stuff like that. So that's the biggest difference between simulation and arcade, and also the tire, how the tire reacts to the ground and stuff like that. And the MX's ATV series has always been more of like a simcade. So simcade is in between, right? We're not going for completely arcade, but we're also not going for simulation, because our player base is mostly, it's a lot of kids and their dads that like to play and have fun, right? A simulation game is more for like hardcore players, right? Or like I like a simulation game, right? Especially being in motocross, so motocross fans and racers and stuff would probably like a simulation game more, because it's a simulation of riding a motocross bike, right? Yeah, it takes a lot longer to learn, it might be a lot harder, but once you do learn it and you're good at it, there is a feeling of achievement almost. Like, yeah, like, you know, it took me like months, but I'm good at it now and it feels good. So the biggest, I wouldn't say fight, but the biggest thing that we are always kind of like working on is, how do we please everyone? You can't please everyone, right? And the MX ATV series, was going to be a simcade game, right? The simulation games and then arcade or simcade. But how do we make it to where people that like simulation still enjoy it, and people that like arcade still enjoy it? So, like over the last few years, you know, we've been working on physics a lot to try and kind of like bridge the gap between these two. We still have a lot of work to do. It's definitely not perfect. But we've fixed a lot of bugs in the code base to where the physics simulation is a lot more stable now. And we are able to kind of focus a bit more on what matters now. And I think that exposing a lot of settings for the players to play with is where it's at.
Yeah.
Because then you can choose how you want the game to play. Now, the hard part with that is what happens when you compete online, right? If setting up the bike in an arcade way makes you way faster, then obviously we can't have people racing the same race online, right? So then you will have to have lobbies where the
it's almost like a sim lobby and an arcade lobby.
Right?
Yeah,
there are rules,
and
right?
once you change X amount of settings past this point, you get directed to a different lobby.
In a way, yeah, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe like in the sim lobby, there are a lot of settings that you cannot change, right?
Yep.
But all of that is a lot of work. Like there's a shit ton of work that goes behind the scene
to make this change.
To make this work correctly, to make sure that people don't cheat, to make sure that there's a lot of work, right? But that's what we're working towards. Because we don't want to make a simulation game because we don't want to alienate half of our fan base. We also don't want to make a completely arcade game because I think that sucks.
That's shit.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
So that's a hard balance. And for the most part, like we do a lot of patches, like almost every month. And for the most part, a lot of our patches improve things. But sometimes we take a step back, right? That we have to fix. Sometimes we also take a step back on purpose so that we can actually continue on improving it. Like if something's broken and we fix it, but it makes the game worse, at least now we can keep working on that to make it better, right?
Yeah.
And that's where talking with the players is really useful. Because, dude, like some players play the game way more than we do. Like even our testers, right? Like they have like hundreds of hours in the game. And sometimes it's the funniest thing where we don't change anything on physics, or we change maybe something that that's not related to any of the ground physics, but they will feel a fucking difference. And it's like, dude, bro, like, what? So, but that's when we work with them and often ask for videos and stuff of what they mean, so that I understand what they feel. And then I can go in and try and fix it. Because very often they can actually feel things where sometimes I've been wrong, completely wrong, where I'm like, dude, we haven't changed that at all. Like, you're full of shit. And then after looking into it enough with their help, it's like, oh yeah, we didn't change that, but something we changed way down there is actually affecting this by 5%, and people that play the game enough can fucking feel it. And they let you know about it.
Wow.
You know? But that's been interesting.
That's like having Chris Kiefer on steroids for video games, you know, like, because you can get guys that can never feel the torque settings on your engine mounts in real life.
Yeah.
And then you can get a guy that's ridden that bike so many times for so many hours and you change the torque settings and he can tell you.
Yep. Same with the game. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting. And to go back to like what we talked about with haters and stuff, there's always going to be haters, right? There's always going to be people that no matter what you do will always hate the physics in the game, no matter what.
Yeah.
And some people that love it no matter what.
Yeah.
And but the majority is kind of in between. So that's where we try to like kind of like stay to, try and please as many people as we can.
Yeah. But the game's healthy, and it's
actually pretty impressive how healthy it is.
Because I think that's a good thing for the sport. Like, that's a good barometer, right? Like, it's a good thing to know. Like, how many people just want to do anything motocross? Yeah,
and it's the great thing about this type of games is, I don't know how it is for other games in the genre, but for our games, usually it's like most games, when publishers release them, there's a big spike at first, everyone buys, but then it goes down, right? Which is normal. But for pretty much all of our games, it's, it keeps on going up and up and up and up and up. Like, we never went down in sales. It just keeps going up slowly. Either steady or up, which is fucking amazing, frankly.
Yeah.
But I feel like what's really helped is how involved we've been with players in the community.
Yeah.
That's really, really helped a lot.
Yeah. So where do you guys want to take it in the future?
That's a good question. We, started talking about the next game a little bit, even though we're focusing on season 4. We started looking into what the next game is going to look like. Definitely, like, one thing we want to do is continue to stabilize the physics so that we can really control them and we can really refine them and kind of like squish all the bugs, because there's still bugs in the physics, especially when you get into weird angles, like when you're on a rear tire and you turn a little bit, and because see, the thing with video games is that in real life, pretty often,
you don't do that ever.
You don't do that, or you would crash, right?
Yeah,
or like if you go down a hill at 80 miles an hour, like you can in the game, and you hit braking bumps that are 3 feet tall, because in video games, usually everything is 20% bigger. Like the tracks are 20% wider, the bumps are 20% bigger.
Why is that?
Every time you make it to scale, it feels fucking tiny in a video game. Like so small. Like if it was in virtual reality, it would feel okay. But in a game, because of like the way the camera is, the way just gaming is in general, every time you make something to scale, it looks like a little toy. Like it's.
I've always wondered that, because I'm like,
weird.
Even MX Sim feels like bigger. Yep. It's supposed to be like a simulator, but it feels bigger than what it is. Whereas when you play like iRacing or something, like that feels just like very to scale in a sense. But that's never really worked for motocross, it seems like.
No, it just doesn't. Like we've tried many times. Many people have tried, and it never works. Never works.
So you just have to stay to like a 20% rule.
Usually, yeah, like minimum 20%. Anything lower and it's too small. If you go too big, then it becomes too big. And
it's a cartoon then.
Yeah, and sometimes, like like depending on the camera that you're using in the game, like if you really pay attention, and like if you could zoom out, for example, you would see how wide the fucking track is.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You could fit like 10 bikes on it. But when you're actually playing, it feels right. Maybe it feels a little big, but not too much, right? So, but because of that, everything is bigger. So braking bumps in the game, for example, are much bigger than real life. Now, in real life, if you were to hit a braking bump that's 3 feet tall at 60, 70 miles an hour coming into a turn with the brakes on all the way, you would just eat shit, right? But in the game, we have to make it work. It has to feel like it's a regular size braking bump. That's where things get tricky, because like if we prevent you from braking based on if something happened in real life, you would brake because of physics, right? Then what happens to the physics? They get unstable.
Yeah.
Things start going haywire, right? And even simulation games have problems with that. Like MX Bikes has some weird issues at low speed, for example. So it's a very hard balance to to achieve. But I think that's why also it's very important to talk to players and get feedback from lots of different players. Because it's funny too, sometimes players are like, I'm sliding everywhere, and then the next guy is like, I'm not sliding at all. Like, what are you talking about? But it also really depends on your play style.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because there's so many ways to do it. And so is the online thing going to be a big focus for you guys going forward? Do you think, like, is that an area where you want to get better?
Yeah, it's more and more of a focus, definitely. Like, Legends is kind of like the first game in a series where we actually have like an online meta where online is more like where the game is in a state where races online make sense and work well, pretty much. We still have work to do, but it's definitely the first game in a series that I guess behaves this well online. Also because we had to do our own dedicated servers and stuff to make the online more stable. So we've done a lot of work there. There's still a lot to do, but it's much better, much healthier than it used to be. So we definitely want to continue improving on that and making the online even more stable and more precise and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And just more options too for players, right? Like, hey, I want to do a race where you can't turn off riding heads, or you can only ride with no riding heads, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, and just keep improving on it. But we also want to bring back some of the fun factor of the older games. I don't know if you remember, but the older games, they had more vehicles in them. They were a bit more of like a sandbox in a way, right?
Yeah.
To have more fun, we kind of want to go back to that a bit more.
Yeah.
A bit more of a sandbox. Because we feel like that's kind of what the MX versus ATV series is all about.
Yeah.
For the most part, right? It's kind of like a motocross sandbox.
Yeah.
That's like a simcade that's pretty easy to pick up, a bit more difficult to master.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. So cool.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's cool. And it's good. More games too is good for the MX community, right? Like there are some new motocross games coming out, I think, that they started working on. And I think it's great. Like, I'm excited to see what they can do.
Yeah.
To see, because there's two things that are good about having, more games. One is competition, because it pushes developers to try harder, right? And the other one is the more games we have, the better, because I want more motocross games. Then there is something for everyone, right? If you're a sim guy, then go play a sim game and have fun. If you're an arcade guy, then go play MX versus ATV more.
Yeah. And then I think there's also an element of like proof of concept for studios to be like, okay, there's a market here. Mm-hmm. Like when you're the only game, there's not really much incentive to try.
Yeah.
There's not really much for a studio to be like, this is a worthwhile vertical to invest in. So I think that it's just creates like a healthy ecosystem,
It does, yeah. It really does. So, yeah, I think we're going to see some pretty cool stuff in the coming years for motocross games.
It's awesome, dude.
Yeah, no, it is pretty cool. I'm pretty excited.
I'm like stoked for you that you've had like 2 careers as well, and you get to like play in this world and like an area that you're super passionate about.
Yeah, no, I feel very fortunate. It's really cool.
So, do you follow the races and stuff much?
Oh, yeah.
Still? Yeah. So you're like still just a hardcore fan?
Yeah, I am. After I retired, there was a few years where I was so done with the sport that I just stayed away. But yeah, no, the past few years I've been following all the races, GPs, Supercross, Motocross, everything. Yeah.
You want to give us some predictions before we get out of here? Some 2025 predictions.
2025 predictions. Oof.
250 class.
250 class.
We don't know who's racing what coast yet.
Yeah. I mean, Deegan's gonna be there for sure. Vial. I have a funny story about Vial actually. So his dad, Frédéric Vial, I used to race against him when I was in France.
Way.
Yeah. And he's the one that actually gave me my nickname, Ron.
Really?
Yeah. And because we had back then in France, we had a cat food named Ron, because cats.
Yeah.
So one day, he just gave me that nickname, Ron. So it's been so weird to see his son racing in the US the past few years. It's like, damn.
Yeah. Time flies.
Time flies. Yeah.
What do you make of his success that he's had?
I think he's been doing good, but I was a bit mad at him this year because he threw away so many points. Like, I feel like he could. He has the talent to be up there, and he rides amazing sometimes. But he made so many mistakes this year. Like, because I was really rooting for him, like being, from France and knowing his dad and stuff.
Yeah.
And but he made so many like weird mistakes that I don't think he should be making, because he can be up there with Deegan, I think. But he's gonna have to stop making mistakes if he wants to have a chance, I think.
And then what do you make of the 450 class?
The 450 class is fucking stacked as fuck, as usual.
Crazy,
I'm glad that Tomac is back and looks like he's in pretty good shape. It's gonna be hard with Jet out there if he doesn't get hurt. I mean, he's amazing.
Yeah, what do you think of him when you watch him ride?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Like, I was watching the Paris Supercross, and he was the only one doing that 2, 3, and quad at the end, and he does it so effortlessly. Just bop, bop, bop.
It's crazy, dude, eh?
And that's an early section. Like, it doesn't look like it on TV, but those are big fucking 3-footers. They're not small.
yeah. Wow, and Coop looked pretty good too.
Yeah, Coop always impresses me. Yeah, always.
But think about where he was in Paris last year.
Yeah.
To now.
Yeah.
Like, that's a massive... Granted, he'd only, like, just got on that bike. But, you know what it's like over
it's a
years.
Big difference,
like, the compounding that you have to take place, like, how long it takes to get better. He's in a way better place off-season 24 than he was last year.
Oh, big time. Yeah, I mean, if he continues to improve as much as he did last year from Bercy to the races...
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, I hope he does. And if he does, we're going to have some good races for sure. Malcolm also looked really good.
Really good, eh?
Yeah, I'm stoked because I've been bummed for Malcolm. I think he can be up there.
Yeah.
And I hope he gets up there because he has the talent.
For sure. And just the crazy injury, like, to come back from, like, really bad, like a break in a femur the way that he did. I'm sure, were you at that race in Phoenix when he broke his femur?
I wasn't. I was watching it on TV, but...
huge injury.
Yeah, femur's bad.
And to come back from that, like, it takes a long time.
It does, yeah. And he looks like he's doing good now, so hopefully that keeps going. We're going to have some good races. I'm really excited for it. I've been excited for Supercross for the past few years. Like, it's been awesome.
It has been cool, eh?
Yeah.
Like, it really does feel like Supercross is in a better place than it's been for a very long time.
You know what I've been thinking, though? And I think when I was racing, I would have hated this as a racer. But I think it would be, in order for Supercross or Motocross to really like get up there as far as popularity, because sometimes it gets boring. Like, I mean, how cool would it be to have the top guy start dead last sometimes, right? Like just,
reverse grid?
Yeah, reverse grid. Or have some races where, like fun stuff, like, you have them start in a specific position and they have to get in the top 5 by the end of the race to score any points. Like stuff like that, right? Like, as a racer, when I was racing, I think I would have hated that because when you're a racer, you just want to win and you want to crush everyone, right? You don't think about the fans really and how boring the race might be, right? But for fans, how cool would that be?
It's honestly a really good point, right? Like, and this is a reason why a lot of stuff doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Because they'll go to Roger DaCosta and they'll say, "Oh, we've got this idea." And Roger goes, "No. And then it's like, "Oh, fuck, all right." And then you go to the riders, "No, don't do it."
Yeah.
And it's like, "Oh, all right." But here's the thing, like, you guys probably shouldn't be making the rules. Like, maybe the people that are watching the races on the outside are the ones that should kind of have a say of like what they want to see. But yeah, from the inside, like, of course they're going to say no. Of course Roger doesn't want electric motorcycles. Of course, like, they don't want to change. Like, they've got their systems, they've got their processes, the riders know what to train for.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, it's a really great perspective. Like, when you actually step back and then you become a fan, you're like, I would have hated this.
Yeah.
But fuck, I'm bored right now with these races. I even think like the Joker lane.
Yeah.
Make a Joker lane.
I know, every race.
Every race.
Yeah.
It's just a thing that you've got to do, and it's a bit slower, everyone's got to do it, so it'll all come out in the wash. But God, at least for a couple of fucking minutes, Jet Lawrence might be in fourth. You know, like just give us something. Maybe he'll forget and get dock points. Like I've never, the Joker lane has never not been a thing that made the racing better.
Yeah.
Like I remember being in Vegas once. Maybe it was Dungeon and Villo. Was it the year that Dunge missed it one year, right?
It was Dungeon that missed it.
Yeah. And the fucking anxiety that I felt, I'm like, when's he going to do it? Like,
missed it.
Bro, you need to do the fucking Joker. Like, go and do the Joker lane. And then we're just like, he didn't fucking do it.
Yeah.
And then he realized he didn't do it. And like, I'm pretty sure Villo told him.
Yeah, Villo told him.
And then he was like,
like,
no.
oh,
Amazing.
I know, it's great.
Give me that.
Yeah.
Like, you're 100% right. You know, like, or make it to where they've got the sand, but like the sand's the Joker lane. And there's like an inside, you know, what you don't have to do it, but one lap you have to do the fucking sand or whatever it is. Like,
Just something. Even like
you're right.
pit stop. Like force them 2 tire change the race. Right? They have to stop and change the tires.
Yeah. Bob Walker said that on the pod recently and he just got flamed. He's like the Deegan's agent. He was like, dude, NASCAR pit stops. I don't know if I'm going to go quite as far to stay a pit stop, but I feel like the Joker lane is like, that's for sure.
It'd be a great start. At least do that.
The problem is, I think, is just size of tracks.
Yeah.
Like, I think not every stadium you'd like be able to do it. You know, like maybe there's some logistical challenges. But yeah, I mean, they need to do some different shit for sure. Like, it definitely just gets a little bit too routine.
Yeah, for
Especially
sure.
when you've got a guy that's as good as Jet is.
Yeah.
And that, like, this field, like you said, stacked as fuck. One dude wins so much shit.
I know, it's incredible.
Crazy.
It's incredible.
He's a freak.
Yeah, he is a freak.
But there's also an element of just like, enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Enjoy the show. Because, you know, and I default, my thinking goes back to when McGrath was winning everything.
Yeah.
That was the most growth the sport ever had.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit like, maybe.
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion, right? Because I mean, as a rider, I would just tell anyone that said what I just said, go fuck yourself. Like you're crazy. Like that's so fucking stupid. But as a fan watching, I would love to see that shit.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting balance. Mate, I've thoroughly enjoyed this.
Yeah, me too.
I'm so glad we got to do it. And
Same here.
man, amazing career racing, amazing post-career with what you're doing. And I just love to see a guy that's just like getting to live out his passions in, you know,
In both.
in both things. And it's been really, really, really cool to sit and hear your story. And I'm going to get a copy of the game. I'm going to spin some laps. But mate, appreciate it. And maybe when we're in Phoenix, it'd be cool to come in and like see the studio.
Oh yeah. Well, actually, we don't have a studio anymore. We all
Really?
work from home now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's all remote.
Yeah, all remote because we are actually so we have people in Canada, in Montreal, some people in Phoenix, England, and France.
Wow.
And we're all remote.
No way.
Yep, we're all remote. We all connect through Slack on the computer. We work together every day through Slack and meetings and stuff, but we're all remote. I work from home now. I have my desk and I have my 2 work computers. I have my 4 dev kits with me. So I can work anytime, any day, whenever I want. If I have an idea, I want to fix something at 3 in the morning because I'm a fucking night owl. I often work until 3 in the morning.
Wow.
And work from home.
That is wild. Oh, wow.
But you're welcome to come over.
yeah. It'd be cool to see behind the hood of it all.
Yeah.
Now, Stephane Roncada, you're the man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mate.
Thanks for having me.
No worries, bro. This was awesome.
Sounds good.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.